When you come to a single player Carl stream, you're not expecting this man to make fucking sense. This man is completely fucking ignorant. Insane. Crazy. One could say that somebody let an insane asylum victim out and just simply start talking on the microphone. But you stay anyways. Why? Because you are enter-fucking-tamed. There's not a single moment where you don't feel something that might be finger-licking good. Just don't let him find out what your mama's first name is. He will try to fuck her. Single player Carl's, home of the nappiest. This motherfucker crazy.
I guess you wonder what I've been. I searched to find love again. I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. I guess you wonder where I've been. 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 Wonder where I've been. Guess you wonder where I've been.
You're listening to 148.8 The Coon.
And now, Carl's words of wisdom.
You know, sometimes y'all just don't need to be talking. Just close your mouth. Just close your mouth.
For those of you that are going through, for those of us that are waiting on His promise, understand God has not forgotten you. When times get tough, you got to look up to heaven and encourage yourself and say, just like an eagle and soar, they shall run, not be weary, shall walk never faint. Say not quit on the Lord and I'm safe. Hold on a little while longer. Here's what you gotta do, just believe. He'll make you
listening to 148.8 Coon. Don't ever let me find you talking shit about your parents. It'll make you appreciate that you still got a daddy. If you ain't got one, don't you worry. I'm gonna be your new stepdad.
You send chills up my spine every time I take one look at you. When I like it, girl, you're blowing my mind with the things you say to me. I like it, I like it, I like it, I like it, you send chills up my spine every time I take one look at you. When I like it, girl, you're blowing my mind with the things you say to me. I like the way you comb your hair, and I like the styles clothes you wear. It's just the little things you do that show how much you really care. Let me fall over you. You know exactly what to do. You put the fire inside of me and make it more than just a dream. Thinking about you, the final while. You're on my mind every day and every night. My thought is you, things you do, so satisfying to me. I must confess it, girl. When I like it, you can choose up my spine every time I take one look at you. When I like it, girl, you're blowing my mind with the things you say to me.
Fuck you, YouTube! If you're cool enough to watch a new streamer this week, you're a big enough Chad to watch Single Player Carl. Bad words, Carl's a breakdown. Memes! If you think you'll find a bread tuber at Single Player Carl's, you can kiss my aunt. It's our belief that if you're such a base mother lover, you watch this guy's stream. Guaranteed! If you don't find niggatry cool, you can shove it up your subscribe list. You heard us right. Shove it up your subscribe list. Bring your friends, bring your pets, bring your mom. We'll love your mom. That's right, we'll love your mom. At Single Player Carl's, you'll catch 6 ways to Sunday. Take a hike to Single Player Carl's, home of challenge laughing. That's right, challenge laughing. How does it work? If you can catch Carl being ignorant as fuck and not laugh once, you'll get nothing but shame. Don't wait, don't delay, don't fuck with us or you'll whip your weave off. Only at Single Player Carl's, the only stream that tells you to fuck on. What are you waiting for? Go to Single Player Carl's, New Orleans' snappiest, an exclusive home to the meanest sons of Cajuns in the state of Georgia. Guaranteed! Listening to 148.8 The Coon. And now a word from one of our sponsors. Say, are you tired of having a dinner that is lacking flavor and makes your husband look at you funny? Are you looking for some kind of dinner that is able to serve up a good sense of jazz at the table? Days with me, James Bartholomew Crow, and my friends called the Jim, and have all regular spice jambalaya, red beans, and rice. First, more flavor than the levies. If you want to be able to jazz up your table, choose Jim Crow's tonight.
Bullets may fly round, but I lay down. I feel safe and sound on solid ground. How can I lay down?
Bezos made a banger.
You're listening to 148.8 The Coon. And now, for a word from our sponsors. Sponsors for Single Player Carl and Radio The Coon are provided by BBC Migraine Powder, Jib and Toby's Ethnic Enrichment Playground, Cringe On Demand, Blockbuster Entertainment, Uncle Tony's Riot Seasoning, Smart Negro Brand Colonized in Sheets Dating App, Immemorial Malt Liquor, and PointDexter.com, and the generous donations and watch times from viewers and haters like you. Thank you! And if you'd like to support Carl, consider leaving a wonderful donation at Ko-fi.com, Subscribestar.com, YouTube.com, and Twitch.com/SinglePlayerCarl. Make sure to support your niggatry today, or you hate black people. Hi, chat. How are we doing? How are you feeling? Are you alive? Hope you're alive. I'm alive. I'm alive, and I'm well fed. Ish. I don't have relish. Oh, what? I think that's for you. What if? Boys and girls, we are gathered here tonight after the eve of the blockbuster video from Cope & Seed. Truly understand how far I love Kim Possible a lot, wanted to go in her campaign to attack Saber Spark, following up on the reporting that we had done earlier before on content last week and other material that has now been provided to us by Cope & Seed. We shall now embark upon this 2-hour and 15-minute video journey, which will possibly take longer, to truly see all of the details. Once again, we thank the wonderful sponsor and benefactor that is Horror and Hellfire for tormenting me with the interpersonal drama of people's lives being cringe on the internet. For they keep doing it for fucking free. How crazy is it gonna get? I don't know, because I don't pre-watch content. I hope you got your concessions. I hope you got your time. Feel free to go grab more food while you're waiting. We will be here. It will be long. It shall be hard, thick, girthy. And for those that were watching from inside the server, I'm currently making said place now. So feel free to watch along at your leisure. There we go. And that is up. And now chat. Let us all now embark on the journey that is the shaming of Saber Spark. If you have not supported the content creator before, please feel free to go to Copenseeth YT and tell them in the comment section that the Negro Hood sends its regards. And that we have an honorary afro just for him and his partner. Let us begin.
Autistic. You know, normally, I love it when my autistic obsession with the brony community breaks into more mainstream commentary. But this particular drama is one that I very nearly didn't cover at all. Because when the allegations made by I Love Kim Possible a lot against Saberspark dropped, I was already aware of their connection to the wider Black Griffin drama, which, I'll be honest with you, is a complete bloody headache.
And we'll be going over that at a later date. Because I feel it is better for us to get into this before we get into that. Because don't want to do too much to cloud the focus. I started out with this, so we're going to close out the chapter that is this, before we then move on to Black Griffin. Probably doing that as next week. Would have been this week, or the week prior, if a certain thing didn't happen.
Now, while this video won't go into detail about those allegations, understanding that wider drama, which revolves around and indeed hinges upon persuading somebody's wife that their now husband groomed them, is unfortunately the only way to actually explain why any of this happened at all. So while my long-term dodging of this story might make me a bit of a Johnny-come-lately, I've put in work over the last week or so to really unpick what's been happening behind the scenes to give you all a clear view of the insanity that's been occurring. And I do mean insanity, because what I have for you today is a drama that stretches back over a decade, all the way to the animation analysis community. I've heard your house described as the home for wayward bronies, to be fair to her.
Yeah, it was that way for a long time until I got over it.
I'm kind of fascinated just at hearing stories about her at cons. Was she just always this crazy?
Rachel? Crazy isn't the right word. Entitled is the right word. Clueless is the right word.
So welcome to the rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to show you what happened to all those people who used to unironically refer to themselves as horse famous.
Whee! It's always the furries. Or the brony fans. I don't know why it's always the goddamn brony fans. First, you got all the content creators that live on YouTube that identified as fans of My Little Pony and bronies. Then, you've got online spurgs like Dan Verse Studios. Then you have known lolcows like, I guess at this point I love Kim Possible a lot, and people like Lily Orchard. All of them seem to be metastasized in this fandom. What kind of crack did you motherfuckers put in to that audience in order for them to become this addicted with being this online? I want to know. I know I got bronies in my audience. I want to know. Explain it to me.
Let's get into it.
But sacrificing putting children at risk because you don't want to publicly speak out about this behavior.
Your fans aren't your peers.
Something better could come out of this if you fucking talk to us.
Firstly, given that this is a drama finding its origin points back in 2012, as you can imagine, there are a fair amount of moving parts and various parties who are involved. But my interest lies almost solely, at least at the moment, in the allegations being leveled against Saberspark and frankly, how they were platformed in the first place. So, we're actually going to begin on May the 1st this year, when I Love Kim Possible a Lot, also known as KP, released a video she'd been working on for the last several months on DA Games. Now, KP has been knocking around YouTube for a significant period of time, with the channel dating back to 2007, though she'd reached the height of her popularity in 2014, having started to gain traction in the brony community in 2013. Now, I have a soft spot for this little community because it's produced some fantastic dramas over the years. Regular viewers will be aware of my obsession with the creator from this community known as Toon Critic, who was caught trying to solicit nudes from a minor through My Little Pony erotic roleplay.
Am I what? I'm sorry, we're just gonna hit this back button real quick.
Session with the creator from this community known as Toon Critic, who was caught trying to solicit nudes from a minor through My Little Pony erotic roleplay.
That, right there, right there. That's what I'm talking about. I understand that the answer that Jack offers me is because there's so many autistic people. What level of autism makes you try to facilitate and elaborate on this level of gooning where one session is not enough? What causes this? What creates this obsession? I don't understand clopping collectively. Gooning communitively, okay? I don't get it. I just want someone to break it down to me. The only comparison I have for it is furries. And when furries do it, they try to change you into a furry. So what is the mechanism in which it causes a brony to go into someone's DMs, get the consensuality for the ERP, and then they're just like, yeah, let me get them pictures of the minor body. What in the autism chromosome causes that? Anyways.
A brony reviewer named Toon Critic Y2K, a person with whom I and many others have worked, has been engaging in sexually explicit chats with an underage girl. Many of us reacted with shock, confusion, anger, and sadness.
While cartoon analysis as a content bracket has expanded over the years, its origin and indeed its popularity can firmly be attributed to the insane popularity of My Little Pony, particularly amongst a certain demographic. This is of course also true of DA Games and Saberspark, and the footage I'm using at the moment is from Saberspark's own documentary on the brony fandom, which he made to celebrate the community. While this all sounds very pleasant and nice, it probably won't come as a surprise to many of you that the history of the brony fandom is basically a smorgasbord of allegations.
Goddamn. That's just unfortunate physiognomy.
While this all sounds very pleasant and nice, it probably won't come as a surprise to many of you that the history of the brony fandom is basically a smorgasbord
of... Like be creative themselves. And then you get to this specimen of a human being. You're like, man, God gave you no favors. You're probably a really good man, upstanding citizen, you pay your taxes, you have sex in the missionary position specifically for the purpose of procreation, and the Lord just said, hawk nose, forehead, hairline, triple chin. Boom! So I so say it, so it shall be done. Hashem Shanda, Hashem Shanda. I think my fan base is a little bit too normal to give you answers. That is a lie. I know they're power leveling. I know they're hiding from me. I know they're hiding from me, Jag. I know they're hiding from me. And then, of course, we got Saffronet over in the corner that doesn't hide shit. Saffronet's over in the corners saying, I know what you are. She got big old eyes like an old seme. I know what you are. I can smell your gooning. What if you like these fandoms and have GigaChad genetics? I don't care. I don't care what you do in the privacy of your own home. What I care about is the moment that I have to now hear about it. You goon responsibly, collectively, together, communally, and I don't hear about it, I don't care. The moment that I hear about it, and then I'm being told, and you have to let them goon in your house, because if you don't allow people to goon in your house, you're transphobic. Your allyship is meaningless and performative. That's the moment where I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should have asked the question. I don't know, it's just reflexive. It's just reflexive at this point. You look me in the eye, you tell me you want to be associated with a person who's clopping publicly, who says things like Dansburg Studio. You tell me now, XP. You tell me how you feel if you hear a man saying things like, she's loving it, she's loving it, she's loving my horse BBC, she's loving it, she knows that I'm cucking her, and she still takes it because it's still a good deal. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go to please address yourself to the clopping video that is on my channel that is covering the drama of Dansburg Studio, also provided to us by Horror, under the name of Forbidding Clopping, the Squealing of Dansburg Studio in 4K.
of allegations. And while this may sound slightly callous, it doesn't surprise me to watch this current drama unfold in the way that it has. Allow me to be blunt for a second. The allegations against Saberspark and indeed DA Games do not exist within a vacuum. They form part of a long-running pattern for this particular fandom. Firstly, there is an inherent problem of the brony demographic. We are talking about adult men.
There's another one. Right here. This man right here. This is the person who I'm called to defend as a content creator. Because when they get exposed by 2E forums, or they get exposed by the greater internet, all of a sudden I'm responsible to answer for this man's crimes. I know what I am. I know what I like. That's not a white woman. So why am I being called to defend this man? You know what I'm saying? I like to be held accountable for the shit that I'm guilty of. I'm not guilty of this fucking sin.
Who are obsessed with a child's cartoon show aimed at little girls. And that particular overlap attracted an awful lot of nonces into the community. But there is a secondary element which many of you will not be aware of, and it's the reason that we're even talking about this in 2025, considering it concerns events all the way back in 2012. The brony fandom actively encourage people who've gone through abusive situations to forgive their abusers and shut the fuck up about it.
If we withhold forgiveness, it does not harm the wrongdoer in any way. I realize that forgiveness is not, and never was, for the benefit of the wrongdoer. It is for our own benefit. It is what enables us to finally release the anger, the resentment, the hurt, the poison that slowly turns our hearts black.
And that really wouldn't change until 2018.
I want to address that statement real quick.
It is for our own benefit. It is what enables us to finally release the anger, the resentment, the hurt, the poison that slowly turns our hearts black.
A bit of an aside on forgiveness. Especially concerning people who you know personally that you feel need to be forgiven. This is 100% the way that you should approach forgiveness. This is not how people choose to speak about forgiveness on the internet. The way that people present the concept of forgiveness when it comes to spurgouts, as was clear in the coverage under Kim Possible, involving herself into the process of punishment to commit life ruination not just onto Saberspark but onto multiple other people. They do not do this in this fashion, and they also do not know, and there are many people who do not know, the difference between consequence culture and cancel culture. Consequence culture is when the person who's doing the action is guilty. Cancel culture is when the person who is receiving the consequences and the crime punishment of an action is innocent. The both sides bad argumentation that I've been watching going around for 4+ years, being used against people, tribally, to try and justify the apologetics and the optimization of political and emotional involvement to ameliorate problems towards the degree of you should just do what other people tell you to do, and that's how punishment should be measured, is extremely brain dead. And I do not want the kinds of people, like I love Kim Possible a lot, referred to as Rachel, to do this to anyone at all, or anyone that's like her to do this to anyone at all, period. Full stop. Because forgiveness for yourself is healthy. Forgiveness with the person for yourself and you reconciling the problem is even better. Because many times people use the authorities and the therapy language around concepts like frame control to disguise the creativity of how one approaches forgiveness for oneself as strength and knowledge and apologetics, as the maturity of being an adult.
You are eating straight eggs, no bacon.
Very nice.
What the fuck are you doing?
Thank you, Just a Girl. As the maturity and the adult emotional depth masquerading. Or I don't know what this is a food fucking video means. And you're scaring me! My train of conscience being stunlocked. Anyways, the way that people choose to approach this topic and talk about it is they approach it with a sense of smug, vainglorious potential, masquerading as adulthood, masquerading as authority and safety and security. Guys doing the right things and making chicken soup. That's okay, or that's fine. Because you do not need to let a person back into your life in order for you to forgive yourself for being in the situation that happened and to forgive them for what they did. Because you do not believe they deserve a second chance. This is completely acceptable and fine. The problem that people have is that they use the form of forgiveness as a way to rewrite the narrative of what they believe should have happened, so that your emotional damage matches the story of your pain. And many people choose to do that to hold on to said pain as a descriptor of the proof that the damage has happened. And it prevents them from being able to move on emotionally and maturely, matrilinearly, and maturely through the process of being able to solve problems, right? In this story, Rachel chooses to punish a man for a shit post of a story that she framed as a man bragging about masturbating into, on, or around her clothes. Tries to use that to cancel a man from his job since the action would have, quote, occurred, despite it not actually happening, before his employment with the channel. She then informs them with the intention of clearly trying to get that person fired. They receive counseling. They go through counseling. They are then given some form of leave to take said counseling, to go through said process. Because of her caring nature, she demands them to have an ameliorating, forthcoming about face to the public. She records him privately without any of his consent, and then airs that document out as a way to tell people, don't you let this man around you, he go nutty in your panties. All because she wants to hold on to the hurt to justify attacking and damaging everyone else. So that when other people ask, don't you think you're going a little bit far? She then whips out, you can't tell me how I should feel. He did this to me. He could do it to you. As the cudgel she wields, both to attack the victims she wants to victimize and to defend herself as the inquisitor, right? It's the masquerading of authority in the form of being a victim. That's fine. This damage here, this hurt is valid, but it's not valid the way she's using it. And there is a very serious problem, since it's mostly women who do this, echoing the conversation we were having on Yappin earlier between myself and Marcus, that you cannot give women this permanent Mott and Bailey, because they will retreat to the high ground that allows them to defend it from the position of saying, I'm a victim, you can't control how I'm hurt. Okay, sure, cool, based. I can't control how you're hurt. But I also can believe if he's literally done everything possible without your involvement, what then gave you the right to decide that his life was not valuable? He did the work, he took the punishment, he's ameliorated himself, he has then gotten back to work, he has taken the new necessary time. At what point does victimhood then allow you to permanently play victim against everyone in the future? And this doesn't just apply to men, but also to women. And not just to viewers and watchers, but also commentators, communities, people that are leaders of said community to said victims, and victims to said community leaders, so on and so forth. It's relationships between normal fucking adults. Somebody who acts like that stops being a victim and starts becoming a crybaby. And I don't like the fact that the internet, because of how they've decided to take therapy language, have ran away with the concept. It's probably the most cancerous shit in existence. Carl says, knowing that there is somebody who will say, but what about you and your personal relationships? Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying it. There's like another conversation level down where we then talk about the idea of words that are said specifically to create the air and space that then becomes toxic in and of itself. Two people have a conversation. One person says things that they don't mean because they just want the other person to be gone. And then they slowly start creating a barricade between that other person that they're talking to. You can't have true understanding, but at the same time, the desire to try and break that barricade, to try and meet halfway, is in itself part of the forgiveness does not equal second chances. Because ultimately what the person has to require is closure. Both people in both situations. The victim has a right to deserve to process in however way they want, but there is a level of distrust where they say something that they don't mean because they just want to save face. And then how people choose to take that story and then wield that story as a cudgel, which then disallows the other people involved to not have closure. At some point, assuming that both sides do not want to cause permanent damage to the other, both of them will have to come to closure in their own time. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about one level up, which is the woman choosing to go after a man's life, go after a man's career, go after a man's associates, go after business associates, go after communities, because she is on the warpath to make a person who she at one point in time in an alternate universe could have been dating, is not dating. Because at the time where she wanted to become closer, if not as friends, if not as romantics, that man was in a whole ass relationship with a whole ass woman. And I cannot make that more clear. Rachel's choice all stems from her growing distant with Saberspark and wanting to desire a way to get at Saberspark and punish him for the crimes of not being her man. That's my interpretation going into this. Because the evidence demonstrates it as such. It all stems from them becoming friends and then them growing apart. And then her choosing to go to Saberspark with all this information saying, why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you come to me? And Saberspark saying, no phone, who this? You said you didn't want no dick. And also, I don't know why you coming to me like this. It's not my problem. The fuck do you want me to do? Why didn't you come to me? TLDR, women. Women. Carl said jokingly.
And that really wouldn't change until 2018 when Lyo Convoy came onto the scene. Have I never mentioned that before? The cartoon...
The fact that he has an involvement with his story is fucking crazy, bro. But you better watch this shit. And I learned this detail myself, just doing some basic research. You'll be surprised how big of a W Lyo Convoy's about to fucking pull, considering that he is being compared to fucking Rachel. Okay? Watch this shit.
The analysis community is Lyo Convoy's origin story. We'll come back to this in a bit because it's another piece in the puzzle which is going to become relevant later. But the relevance of that culture of silence that existed explains why we're now litigating these dramas years later, because any discussion of them at the time would have been quickly shut down. And it also became a bit of a trend for people with pre-existing grudges to happily run allegation stories on people they didn't like with fairly flimsy evidence.
And that's just the ACC in general. Now y'all understand why I did that video first. But now this is just the meta of the internet, I guess. Whenever you can't be able to attack somebody from your past, attack them in the present by accusing them of actions that are taken out of context and then are clipped to almighty high hell. Again, women.
And yes, KP's video fits firmly within this trend. In fact, within KP's Discord, there exists an archived thread of safety reports. These safety reports are basically Google documents on people who are problematic within the community, be they child groomers or just slightly annoying. The idea being to spread awareness to the wider community or anyone who may come across these individuals.
So, that right there, that's what we call relitigation. This is the kind of shit that I've been dealing with for years. The kind of shit that any content creator can deal with. You have no idea where it's coming from. You don't know who's responsible. And when they tell you about this information, they accuse you of asking questions about it as though there's some kind of admission of guilt there. By wanting to know why someone's talking shit about you behind your back and cannot show you the information and the details that express it. This shit is active woman moment. Because there's no context to say that a safety report is actually important. This just is used as a whisper network. And then this Whisper network mobilizes itself to attack and cancel people because they decided they don't like you. When you do this kind of shit, there is no path for forgiveness, and there is definitely no path for second chances. The second that you get exposed doing this kind of shit, it's over. It's done. You can't exist in a community because you're just going to paint a scarlet letter on anybody who crosses you the wrong way.
The video KP was doing on DA Games was a safety report. But it's probably helpful to you, and because I don't want to pick through a 2-hour video breaking it down, to just hear from KP herself regarding the timeline and motivations behind the video. Let's start giving just a brief background on how you ended up in the kind of... I know you've got a fairly long history with these kind of communities anyway, but why were you making a video about the DA group story in the first place?
Oh wow, you really don't know anything. So the original video was supposed to be about Chris. Chris was an ex-employee of mine that I found out made up a story about, to be blunt, jerking off to my clothes in a con and bragging about it.
But that's clearly not the case because you didn't start off with just that. You decided to litigate it against the entirety of DA Games. But go on.
Was never told that story. A whistleblower told me it. Confronted Chris, recorded that call. Chris admitted to it.
Leaving out the fact that you recorded him.
Contacted DA Games and Saber to see if they were going to do anything. I contacted Saber through his employees because I don't really like Saber, but I felt...
I contacted this person through his employees instead of contacting him directly because I don't like Saber. Hopefully there's a back behind that sentence and I'm just clip-jumping you.
Like it was fair to give him a heads up, and same with DA.
So that was in the case. You contacted him through his employees instead of going to him directly and asking him questions. Yeah, that's not how any of that's done.
DA was, I think all those emails are in the video if you want to like find a mirror and get them there. But the DA emails were essentially, hey, seems like this is handled, like go away. And then I was like, well, we're going to release this publicly as a safety report. So like, do you have any comment? And then they started getting really frazzled, and they tried to use British law to convince me not to release it, even though the laws didn't make any sense.
I wanted to antagonize and tarnish the face of the brand by choosing to openly call one of their employees something he's not, and then force the brand into the image and spotlight against their will instead of working with them behind the scenes to ensure that the process of punishment is meted out correctly and handled properly so that they do not tarnish their brand, they can discipline the person, keep the content engine going. But you don't think that's good enough, so instead, it's time to make an IED and just throw that shit in their general direction. I wonder why they're scrambling, Rachel!
Now I'd like to pause here for a moment, because the elements involving Chris deserve further examination. I've now heard that full call, and what was initially presented was an edited version of a much longer conversation. Within this longer conversation, Chris takes full accountability of his actions, he apologizes repeatedly, and makes clear notes of actions he has taken over the years to correct these behaviors.
So he goes through the process of a struggle session.
These communities talk an awful lot about people taking accountability, and that if people do take accountability and apologize for their actions, mostly they can just get on with their lives afterwards. So it confused me quite a lot to hear Chris do all the things you are meant to do and still be expected to face serious repercussions.
Because it's never about the fact that you've taken accountability. It's about the fact that they can litigate that shit against you forever. That's what it's about. Every single time, as has been the case constantly and always, it is never, ever, ever about I took accountability. It's about you're an unsafe person and nobody should ever be around you and you shouldn't have an audience and you shouldn't have money and fuck your kids and fuck your life and fuck your wife and fuck your dad and fuck your husbands and fuck anybody who's ever touched you. The exact moment that they decide that you are now a toxic piece of material, you're to be buried under the goddamn floorboards and never spoken of again. Despite how much you, quote, haunt the narrative by existing outside. We'll see you in an hour, just a girl.
We are talking about a single instance over a decade ago with seemingly no repeat behaviors. The idea someone should be fired over this is frankly absurd. And so
I'm going to push back on Beckett a little bit. If the problem is he's masturbated, the key caveat here being it didn't happen or it wasn't happening the way in which it was described to her originally, I can understand why they might think, better not let him in your house, he might masturbate over your panties. That'd be understandable. Sex pests, blah, 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 blah. You have to be aware, you gotta be sure. That's not how she handled the situation. That's not how she tried to handle the problem. And that's not how she talks about him. She talks about him like he is a sexual predator. And so she wants him to be punished and treated and surveilled like he is on a watch list. That's why it's weird. I say funny jokes, ha ha, funny black man doing ha ha, funny black man things, and I'm treated as though I am the second coming of the Antichrist, if not the first coming. That doesn't make sense. Especially if you're put in a struggle session, and when you're put in that struggle session, nobody tells you what it is that they actually want. They don't show you what the supposed path to redemption should be, and they're more focused on trying to kill you, whether it be in content or it be through social action, and then brag after it's been done, like it's supposed to be something you celebrate over a potluck. That form of duplicitous forms of justice is ultimately, I'm sad to say, a fucking left-wing shit-lived behavior and opinion. It's not even political. It's just a tactic that's actively been used by the left. And it's a tactic that's actively and happily used by the right whenever they want. More cancel pigs have been coming out from the right than there has been from the left. The focus should be on the fact that nobody should be doing it whatsoever. Why are you trying to get in the way of proper communication and amelioration? That's my concern. And you're going to be surprised that you find out that it's also Leo Convoys.
So I went back to KP to ask her about it. Because I went looking through some of the Chris stuff, KP. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you. It's very difficult with the Chris stuff. Because what I've got your section of the video, which is a 2-minute cut. And that's a condensed version of the full call. Which isn't noted as a condensed version in your video. And then I've listened to the full call.
So she actively clips the content there. And she doesn't admit that the full call is removed out of fucking context. Which, that's already slimy to me. The fact that you do not show the context that it's a full call, and you do not show that you were recording him at the time without his consent and without his knowledge.
And Chris is highly apologetic, takes full accountability for his actions, explains to you that, where he was at the time and the fact that he has sought therapy and to modify that behavior. He's not making excuses for it, he's literally just actually taking account. So I'm trying to understand why you felt it was necessary to make a video on him, or why he should be fired for something that happened a decade ago and he has apologized for.
Oh god, he got her stuttering. He got her stuttering!
I guess I just wanted a sense of accountability, if that makes sense.
No! No, Rachel, that does not make sense! What sense of accountability is there more than you struggle sessioning a man? At that point, you want life ruination, you want him to die. What would be good for you? That he not be able to breathe anymore?
Sounds like I get your point, though.
It's very difficult, because what does accountability look like? I mean, again, he didn't actually assault anybody. He made up a weird story, which is very fucking weird, I agree with you. But he's, if accountability is you should lose your job, your livelihood, and everything else, I mean, would you agree that's fairly extreme?
I think,
he unironically has her stuttering, oh my god.
Maybe, some sort of statement from him, too, might have helped. No, I get your point, though. That.
But he doesn't have to. The company can make the statement. What is the point of making him make a statement other than to muckrake him? At that point, there is no proper process whatsoever. It's just you punishing him constantly. Because then every single time you see him, you just bring up the public statement and you make people who should not even care aware of something that should matter.
This was a thing that happened, and this probably damaged some relationships that I was working on with at the time. And that kind of sucks, but I see what you mean.
Because I will say, like, from talking to a few other people who've been going over this, I mean, the Chris stuff is a point that's kind of come up again and again. It's like, you know, I see a lot of stories about people who are like abusers who've like had sexual conversations around and with kids. I think there's a current drama going on over again, some stuff that happened like 5 years ago, and one of the particular people involved in that, you know, he's in trouble now because he's sort of pushing back after sort of acknowledging what he's done to this person. But the kind of prevailing thing is like, well, if you just said, yeah, that was a fuck up and I was a bit weird and I'm sorry, no one would care. But with Chris, you've got literally the reverse of that situation where he does admit it's a fuck up, says that he's sorry, and it's like that feels like it's not enough 2 years later. So yeah, I kind of want to be clear about that because I think that's something that you are going to catch flack for.
I think it was also, no, that's fair. I think it was also, I was frustrated with, like, I think I wanted some accountability. I was frustrated with the responses I was getting, and I was frustrated that no one was, like, offering to help fix it. It was just more like...
Please be aware that I'm on 1.5, so that was a very pregnant pause. Let's listen to that again.
And it's like that feels like it's not enough 2 years later. So yeah, I kind of want to be clear about that because I think that's something that you are going to catch flack for.
I think it was also, no, that's fair. I think it was also, I was frustrated with, like, I think I wanted some accountability. I was frustrated with the responses I was getting, and I was frustrated that no one was, like, offering to help fix it. It was just more like, you know...
There are 3 trimesters worth of pauses in that statement before she even gets to this part. She has to admit outright that, no, you're right. And then she's trying to find the words. She's trying to find the words to not sound like a raging fucking ego monster. I was just trying to find people who were as angry as I was. Is the statement she wanted to originally say. She wanted to say, I wanted to find people who were angry as I was. And I wanted them to respond in a way that I thought was proper. She wanted not just... This is worse than frame control. She wanted full control of the victim narrative. She didn't want any way for him to be seen as understood or possibly get some level of comfort given to him. She specifically, explicitly wanted to bash every single one of them over the head with a goddamn brass jar or a brass bell saying shame, shame, shame.
If that makes sense?
Sure.
I'm accountable.
What does fixing it look like to you?
Maybe some kind of,
That was a long pause!
I'm accountable.
What does fixing it look like to you?
Maybe some kind of, public acknowledgement or something, because it had...
The company made a public statement about it. They explained in the public statement that he'd be taking leave of absence and that he was going to be getting counseling.
Reputational damage, but also maybe, like, actually proving he went to have some sensitivity training or something, and not just saying that.
So control of the narrative, control of the information, control of sight and proof, and effectively a picture of him wearing a I possibly maybe went off in your panties, I'm so sorry, along with a picture of a Joker frown put on his face with him getting snapped like he's drunk at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. So, tar and feathering. You wanted to tar and feather him and walk him through the public plaza.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I mean, because when I watched through the video, he seems to say in his public statement, yes, this is a thing that happened and I needed to work on and I'm sorry for. I mean, it was, it was a very corporate statement in some regards. I think that's fair, but it's like, publicly, this was acknowledged as a thing that did happen with Chris, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think there is a spiraling element here that...
Oh, I should clarify that it was only acknowledged publicly. I felt he might be a little bit dangerous just because he was kind of lying about those kind of experiences on top of when I looked into the DA game stuff too. I don't know if you've gotten there, but there's a lot of like gross behavior there. So it just seemed like these people weren't accountable for themselves as well. So I guess it became...
So not only was he not accountable for himself, DA Games wasn't accountable either. Despite the fact that they literally did the process that would be necessary to make sure that they were accountable. And make sure that he was held accountable. Because you didn't have the ability to do it yourself.
Became a bigger scope to me once Games was not really willing to work with me, and then when some of the Games victims found me and they were like, oh, this is a pattern because they do this kind of stuff all the time.
With that out of the way, I suppose we should get to the Saberspark allegations themselves. Now, the way I want to break this down is I'm going to explain to you what the allegations were and how they were presented, and then I'm going to tell you what happened behind the scenes. And I can do that with receipts, because I have everyone's DMs. And yes, that includes Brony Fandone's DMs with KP, which make for fairly fascinating reading. So, the allegations against Saberspark were first released on Twitter through Brony Fandone's account. And believe it or not, that fact's going to become quite relevant later on. These allegations would come from an anonymous source, claiming that in 2012 and 2013, though it is worth noting that there would be a later correction that this all occurred in 2012, this individual met up with Saberspark twice, and on both occasions, they engaged in non-consensual sexual activity with him. KP.
I continue to say that this kind of behavior, if you somehow end up in a room with a man, and you and that man are engaged in activity and behavior that would be unbecoming of a young woman or a young lord trying to remain decent to the public, and you somehow end up basically inside of a fucking Brony fanweight comic, where somehow things happen as though you just walked into a fetish scene, where I wanted it, but not with everybody watching. I don't think that we can use the words, I was used, or I was taken advantage of, because at what point do you say, please get your tongue out of my throat? No, I did not consent to you kissing me passionately inside of this elevator shaft. And then the descriptors that went along with that shit. I know that as a gag, I read it as though it was a satin surrender story. But I'm serious. I understand being shocked and being completely taken aback by how forceful a person's actions or how demanding a person's sexual vigor could be. Okay? I get that. Why not fight back? I understand that there's a lot of arguments where it's like, well, Carl, you'd have to understand. They felt like they couldn't fight back because it's their idol. It's their Oshi. It's their favorite creator. Who's gonna deny their creator? To which my response is, motherfucker, I'm pretty sure most people, as much as they like me, are probably going to punch and or kick me in the throat and or testicles if I try to put my tongue down their throat and their name is not Natasha, okay? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. In my head, in my mind, in my Carl's eye, I think we have missed a few steps here somehow. That's just me. I know I'm weird and strange, but I feel like there's some lines missing. There's some steps missing. And when I look at every single bit of the reporting that is being done by people who come from that persuasion, every single line I hear is effectively, don't victim blame, don't victim blame, don't victim blame. But when do we make time for victim understanding, huh? I understand, don't victim blame. But can you please help me victim understand? I want a victim understand. If you help me victim understand, I think I can get there, okay? I really think we can get there. Otherwise, I'm lost. Ugh, sigh, ugh.
P would then present these allegations in her video and follow it up with a conversation between herself and Courtney Pete regarding the nature of consent. As a quick note for those of you unaware of who Courtney Pete is, this is the sister of Lily Orchard, and most people will be aware of her through her ongoing campaign against Lily Orchard, who is alleged to have abused Courtney during her childhood. Regarding the allegations themselves, and we'll come to who the accuser actually is, I was immediately pretty skeptical of these when I saw them. I put out a Twitter thread outlining my issues with the allegations the day after they dropped, but I'd like to take a moment to be crystal clear at this point. I don't think anybody will ever be able to say with 100% certainty that these events did or did not occur. While Saberspark has denied the accusations, this occurred so long ago that the evidence to condemn or vindicate him just doesn't exist. Which is exactly why accusations like this should never be platformed by a creator. Putting anyone in the position where they have to deal with life-ruining allegations when you have no evidence to support them beyond a single victim testimony is an incredibly callous and fucked up thing to do to somebody.
And should be extremely obvious to any person who's ever been in a situation or could even be able to imagine themselves being put in a situation where that kind of action clearly comes from a place of hatred and anger. It is a choice that comes from a place of hatred and anger. If you do this to somebody, it is the equivalent of putting a gun in their face and in their mouth and expecting them to dodge bullets. And we all know that's the case. We all know that's the case. Because normal people don't do this to people. Then again, we have to admit that some of these people are not normal. Truthfully, we're all everyday people. We're all everyday people. But some of these motherfuckers on the internet are strange as fuck. And Rachel is definitely one of them. Then again, woman. But honestly, even the women don't like this shit. The goons and the gays and the they be theys, I don't think they like this shit either. Because ultimately, you just bring the vibe down. If the vibe is sexual degeneracy in private where nobody can see you, and then they catch flack for the shit that a person like this does because now you're giving them a bad name. Again, that's just me, that's just my opinion, but that appears to be the way that this shit goes down. Deliberate, discreet, and direct choice, but a choice nonetheless.
And as we dive into the deeper drama surrounding this story, particularly when looking at people like Brony Fandon't, that's a theme. Because when it comes to the Black Griffin allegations, vast amounts of the evidence supplied against him is incredibly shaky. And when challenged on this, the defense is the quantity of allegations, regardless of their quality. And
me personally, I'm gonna let him finish, but me personally, if I have to choose between a person who I know for a fact did it because I saw it, and I can recount it properly, and then I can find any amount of evidence to demonstrate that I am not a crazy man, I'm going to take that over. Single player Carl, you're charged of the crime of raping a woman. All these women said that you raped them because you looked at them with this face. They felt sexually disturbed and penetrated by your eyes and your grin. Because I care about real victims. I care about real action. I have done way too much goddamn work in the private sector and in the public sector, defending people on exactly this kind of shit when it comes to the law. Giving good amounts of time of my youth and my years to see some people just fucking play act on the internet saying, I felt assaulted because when he stuck his tongue down my throat, even though I then kissed him back passionately, I felt like he overstepped his boundaries. And again, I'm not victim blaming, but I'm victim asking questions. Did you like it? Did you fight back? Did you say no? Okay, so why we here? Again, I'm not victim blaming, I'm victim asking questions. If I can't even ask a question about the allegations, it makes me not trust the allegations. There has to be space not just for airing out problems, but also finding solutions. And how the fuck do I solve the problem if I can't find the information because people are actively hiding it? And then hiding behind the purse skirts of the biggest person that they know and can find that just basically shuts it down because you're questioning the victim and their story and we don't feel like you're a good ally. Bitch, I'm trying to find the murderer! Can I question the murderer? Again, that's just me. I know I'm strange, I know I'm weird, but that's just me.
to be candid, it astonishes me that this has gone on for as long as it has.
That's what I'm saying!
Let's get to the behind the scenes. One thing I was made immediately aware of is apparently Lyo Convoy was involved in this, which didn't come as much of a surprise given his history with this particular community. Lyo again has pre-existing relationships with KP and many of the other people involved in this particular fandom. Actually, a little bit of fun lore for you, but a lot of the people involved in the Senate server actually originate in the brony community, with individuals such as Queen Seraphina even voice acting in popular brony cartoons like this one from Pymations. Though, To my surprise, Laio's involvement in this is incredibly minimal. He would, though, share what DMs he had, and it seems he was added to a couple of different group chats, the first involving the individuals leveling accusations towards DA Games, as well as the individual making allegations against Saberspark. In the interest of transparency, and because the DA Games group chat is less of interest right now, though is referenced in later conversations, I think it's useful to hear this first recording just in full so you can get a general scale of Laio's level of involvement.
So is everybody here like previous employees of DA Games? Is that what I'm getting reading the chat here? Okay, so is everybody here an adult or we got any minors here? I haven't heard the interview myself, but I'm curious. When you say I'm serious, is that because humor is a coping mechanism for you? Because that's pretty common. I think maybe putting in a section, perhaps, with a notation on studies, showing that sometimes people cope with things via humor, and that's how they figure out discussing it, would probably help to that, not just in the sense that would recontextualize your interview, and obviously make it to where it doesn't need to be redone, but also it further points out that you're a victim of these things, and that's how you're internalizing it, and it puts more credibility to your claim than just redoing it and trying to do it in a sterile as possible fashion.
Of note here, Laio's advice is to allow original victim testimonies to stand as they are. This,
which means you can't be able to create a narrative around them and replace them just because you feel like it,
is very, very solid advice for reasons that will become clear in a little bit.
Yes, the exact same place, Yan. The exact same place.
As for his conversation with the Saberspark accuser, well, that requires a little bit of dissection. To begin with, when KP came to Laio to ask his opinion on this, Laio is incredibly clear that the correct course of action is to go to the police and file a report.
How crazy is that shit? I put it to you, chat. How crazy is that shit? Mr. I know where you are, Mr. Little Man. Do you think that you're big and tough talking to me like that? I'll come where you are, and I'm gonna find you. And I'm a expletive removed. That royal convoy. Mr. Adoptive dad of autistic and extremely terminally online women is the one who has to be the sane one to say, go to the police! I felt like I was taking crazy pills!
Then that needs to be handled by the cops, like period. Like 100% period. That needs a police report filed today.
Amazingly, he also points out the complete bloody obvious, that the accuser trying to remain anonymous to protect themselves from Saberspark finding out it's them makes no sense, because if this is true, Saberspark will immediately know who is making the accusation.
Yes, 100%. And I'm bully against that type of shit too. I understand the idea of trying to keep somebody's knowledge and information anonymous, so that when you're dealing with the kind of person who is very aware of frame control and is very willing and able to lie, cheat, steal, scam, hide, and avoid true accountability for their actions. I understand the idea and the push and the desire to try and control that information because you're trying to control for the optics that they can attempt to have a hand on attacking. As I was accused before, we have a reason to do this because we think that you're trying to hide and worm your way out of something. But here's the problem. You're not a court, and you're not cops. So it's just drama on the internet. When it stops being drama on the internet, and it becomes real victims, real violence, real outcry, real problems in need of real solutions, real amelioration, and potential time in jail, I do not trust YouTubers to be the one to do that, unless that YouTuber is already a person who has worked in a court of law or in any methodology comparative and similar to crimes and investigations for doing that. I do not trust a YouTuber to do that unless there's somebody like Donut Operator or Angry Cops. So basically, most of the people are on the round table of the Unsubscribed podcast. That would be the example and the basis. So, other than myself, and only myself at the time in which I was working for the government, certain types of YouTubers and current sitting or retired detectives, lieutenants, DAs, paralegals, aid attorneys, or anything alongside that level, that's who I trust to investigate shit. That's who I trust to do the damn job. That's who I trust to investigate and understand what's being done, what's being said, and why it's being said and done. Those are the people that I trust. I do not trust, under any circumstances, anybody who is not that. Because we have been shown that they are more than happy to lie, if possible. Period.
Here's the problem, though, with that inherently. If that did happen, and Saber did do that, he will by nature know who it is. So if it gets out in any way, shape, or form, and a police report hasn't been filed, she's going to be at risk. Like, that's just the truth of the matter in this. And it's unpleasant, it's ugly, but that's the truth.
These sentiments from Lyo would broadly be reiterated to the accuser when he got in a conversation with her. Because whatever else you want to say about Lyo Convoy, and believe me, I understand, even he sees the inherent risks of running a story like this, noting that it may open KP up to a defamation suit. They'd continue to go back and forth on this topic for a while, with the accuser pushing back that filing a report may allow Saber to find out who she is. Though the accuser does accept by the end that releasing this story at all means that Saber will be able to identify her, which makes this entire interaction, again, very, very bizarre. I'd also like to point out that this account, Sunspecs, was created specifically to have this conversation with Lyo, as the accuser further obfuscates their actual identity. And when Lyo refuses to budge that a police report is required, the accuser would essentially ghost him and refuse to communicate any further. So who is this mysterious accuser? Well, that would be a woman by the name of Emmy. Now, how do I know that? Well...
White women!
There were a few reasons. There was a large amount of circumstantial evidence that was compiled in a Google document a week or so ago. This spread like wildfire and led to her name being shared in multiple chats. We also have these vague posts from Casey, the partner of Saber Spark's editor. But I have to admit I was slightly ahead of the curve here, because before any of this was public, Emmy had provided a Dropbox link to a video as evidence that she had attended the cons in question. But Emmy is not some random unknown individual. She is a public figure, her name is public, and if you click on more information on this Dropbox video, it has her name on it. It is also worth me noting that at this point, now that Saberspark's response is out, Emmy has been on the record with other content creators talking at length about these accusations and herself. And yes, I was offered this recording. And the fact that such a large content creator, somebody who has literally been on Dr. Phil, would try to platform these accusations anonymously.
Okay, I have several things to say. I'm gonna let him finish. And then I'm gonna bust it. Okay? I'm gonna bust it.
Is an element that deserves discussion and analysis. Lyo would also get me in contact with KP, which is why he is in the first call, and KP would provide confirmation that it was Emmy. I expect you're also wondering when this information became available to KP herself. And I'll be honest with you, that was also something I was quite curious to know.
So, whatever.
When did you know?
When did I know it was Emmy?
Yes.
At the beginning.
Right, okay. Okay.
Why would you hide the identity of the person if it's not just a fan or some random person, but a content creator that's on camera?
I can explain that one.
Welcome, Horror. Please!
Hi.
Elucidate to me!
He's gonna bring it up, but, apparently, Emily has some controversial problems in her past. And because she has controversial problems in her past, she knows people are gonna have backlash. Or she's going to get backlash from everybody. Or at least the people who know about her controversies. Including accusing multiple people of sexual incongruity.
Okay, so here's what's making me crash out, okay? You have footage of yourself at the convention. Evidence!
Let it play a little bit. It gets worse. She was very stupid with trying to hide herself.
Like
you're gonna get even madder.
Like they're like, if you have physical evidence, you have physical. He's hoarding himself over you. He's this big. He's putting you against the wall and roughishly kissing you, holding you, fucking you. So why don't you have footage?
The problem is she doesn't have evidence. He has evidence that they were at the same con. He does not have evidence of sexual impropriety.
the way that he's characterized, he's hanging around her like an incel, trying to get a piece of that ass. White women, but not this white woman.
So
I'm a good white woman.
From sort of an outside perspective, one of the big difficulties, I guess, with this story is you have a reasonably sized creator for this space coming out anonymously with a very long history with this group. I mean, they certainly interacted with Saber and everyone else, around the DA group for a long period of time. I am surprised you didn't look into anything about them or question the fact that they were coming out with this anonymously.
Well, the anonymous part seemed clear. She was afraid that she was going to get harassed, and with my interaction...
Pause. You do understand that if she's being harassed because she's accusing someone, all they have to do is the Law and Order equivalent of, and these are the marks that the accused left on the alleged victim. And if she's out here, torn coochie, torn panties, torn shirt, oh my god, I can't believe this monster just had his way with her and was doing all this. You understand that makes this shit sound so fucking bullshit, right? Oh my god, people who have no information about the story are attacking her. Block them. They're unimportant. They're giving no context and they're giving no additional information in the situation. They are literally immaterial. Ignore them. We're focusing on the real problem.
With Saber, and like other people's interactions with Saber, he'll try to kind of use his platform to, I guess kind of shake people a little bit. That's what he tried to do with me, at least.
Shake people a little bit. He'll use his platform to shake people a little bit. KP, be honest and say what you mean, Rachel. He would use his platform to silence people. And you do realize that if he tried to silence people, all you'd have to do is demonstrate, hey, Saber Spark raped this woman, and he's trying to silence her about it. Here's the evidence that we have to show it. Here's community is willing to show it. If you're going to handle these problems the way that you need to handle them, then handle them like it's an actual problem. Otherwise, we're playing games. This is not a serious threat. This is not a monster that's ongoing. This is the uncomfortable feeling that somebody has, like, oh my god, my ex is here. It's so awkward that he's here. Oh, and he's with that girl that he broke up with me for. Oh my god, oh, I feel so embarrassed. That's what we're talking about. That's the only thing we can be talking about. Because we're not talking cash money. This isn't about a money shot. This is about the fact you want a shot at his money. Zing. And or anything else. Of course, 2 men so far. Technically, 3 men, if we're including DA Games and the person that was victimized. So the person who runs it, the employee, and Saberspark. You want to life urinate one person. You want to force interaction from the other. You want to punish Saberspark directly because he didn't come to you for the permission of finding out how he needed to bend over and take it from you, Kappa. And all of these things in your head are justified because you're upset and you're mad. Maulding, coping, seething even. And you, when confronted about this, can't say, oh yes, the reason why I wanted to have this happen this way is because I felt that he needed to be punished, and I felt that he needed to be punished within a level that none of you were capable of. So the reason we kept her name private is because we wanted to get as maximum the effort and the maximal amount of support possible, so that when we did reveal her name, we were like, oh shit. And then also countering what I have been told now, which is she's been known to do this to other people. So in this case, it's like, oh guys, we know that she's got a background for doing this, but this time it's real. We swear.
Mm-hmm.
We used to dumpster and bin cases like this, and then push for dismissal of the case, and then for the plaintiff to be signed as the defendant to a litigation case, to then have them punished for wasting our time. This is a waste of people's time. Not the interest of what's been going on here with Saberspark. No, that shit's important. What they tried to do is an effective waste of the court's time. Which probably tells you that's the reason why they ain't go to the police.
Seemingly. I guess I didn't question that. So, like, I guess suffice to say I was fucking stupid and, you know, this...
Yeah, you were more than fucking stupid. You were more than fucking stupid, Rachel. You were litigious. You were fucking litigious. And I hope you get sued.
It'll be another long week. I don't really know what to tell you besides that.
Before we move forward, we should probably talk about who exactly Emmy is, as that may shed a little light on why they may wish to remain anonymous. Emmy Jones is best known, at least from a drama perspective, for engaging in an affair with Ryan Drummond, one of the Sonic voice actors. She is generally deeply disliked by the Sonic fandom, despite the fact that, like any good fan would, she did apparently get him to do the voice. But if this was her only controversy, I don't think it would be relevant.
Gotta go fast! Alright! Wow, Amy, you sure do have some stamina!
I've got no comment for that.
Hey, Shadow! Pop me one of those gas pills! Here you go, Sonic. Oh, yeah! Chaos Control! I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah, Sonic, give me your chili dog.
These allegations aren't serious, so am I, Chad. It's the only way I stop myself from wanting to end it all. Well, no. That's the third reason why I don't want to end it at all. The first reason is Natasha. The second reason is Julian.
However, Emmy has a long history of being an unreliable narrator, or at least being seen as such. I said earlier that she's been on Dr. Phil, and while this was just a rumor for a while, Emmy would come out in the comment section of that video confirming it was her at 16 on an episode talking about how she wanted to become a teen mother. Now, it is not unusual for a content...
Excuse me, what?
Uh-huh. Now can you see why she didn't want to come out as herself?
I'm more stuck. Let me press the back button one good time. Let me hear that again.
In the comment section of that video, confirming it was her at 16 on an episode talking about how she wanted to become a teen mother. Now it is...
Okay, let's go ahead and read that statement. Comment for all of the people curious, this is me. This episode is extremely old, over 13 years ago. I am 30 years old with a wonderful 13-year-old child. My child is on top of their class, straight A student, amazing in every way possible. Dr. Phil is wrong. Many scenes in this episode were purposely edited to set up a form of a narrative around the type of child I was, and it was very exaggerated for views. I communicated often to the staff my discomfort in being on air, and I was told I was a difficult child for not wanting my serious attention on air for millions to see. The whole she wants to get a little house and live some fantasy was based around nothing I said at all, and any scenes that were positive in my favor were cut. Father is still in the picture, and both of us are in our own happy relationships. So you're a single mother. You're a single mom. Yeah, you're a single mom. You little hit a raw. He didn't have no job. Now you're a single mom, and now you're a single mom. I raised my child. Please, I implore you to teach your children and give them the tools to handle these situations. Shame doesn't work. You can't force adoption on everyone. I was extremely aware of how abusive the adoption system was and knew it was not the right choice for me and my child. Support and education. You know what would have been helpful for you? Safe sex. Condoms. Contraceptive practice. What the fuck do you mean you hid your identity because you didn't want people to find out about the fact that you were out here slanging coochie and you fucked around and found yourself in a drama situation where you were accusing Saber Spark, of all people, of trying to give you baby number 2? My hatred for white women is rising. You're hiding the snow bunnies under the floorboards. I know it, I can smell them. They smell of Neutrogena.
Emmy would come out in the comment section of that video confirming it was her at 16 on an episode talking about how she wanted to become a teen mother. Now, it is not unusual for a content creator who's been around this long to have their fair share of dramas, but Emmys have a particular flavour, and they come in two parts. Firstly, Ryan Drummond is not Emmy's only sex scandal. Now, obviously, there's a Dr. Phil episode, but she's also been accused of using her, shall we say, assets, to force other voice actors out of roles that she wants.
If she wants to get onto a project, she has to brute force her way in, and normally she does.
Excuse me? I didn't hear that. Let me listen to that again. I hallucinated for a half second.
Shall we say, assets, to force other voice actors out of roles that she wants.
If she wants to get onto a project, she has to brute force her way in, and normally she does this by sleeping with whoever she can get her hands on. This is what ended up happening with Wrath of Nazo. Originally, the project starred Spirit of the Blue as Sonic, and his best friend Blue-Eyed Fox was voicing Tails. Emmy wanted in on this project because she had a thing for Spirit of the Blue, and she wasn't exactly happy that somebody else was voicing Tails, no less this person's best friend. So Emmy slept with Spirit of the Blue so she could replace Blue-Eyed Fox.
So you're Zoe Quinn in another skin. I see, the demon that possesses Heather Van Valkenburg, Chelsea Van Valkenburg, that possesses Chelsea Van Valkenburg has decided to find another host to spread its synestazine flavoring upon the rest of us mortal men. I see. Whippings and hangings until the behavior subsides. Whippings and hangings until the behavior subsides. How do you still have a career? Somebody piece that shit up for me. How does she still have a job?
It is worth noting here that all of this does in some way come from biased sources, as we see the theme of much of this being based on testimony continue. But the second flavor of controversy Emmy is known for is sympathy baiting. While there is the standard "I'm being harassed" comment that you'll see from any run-of-the-mill creator, perhaps most damning here is accusations that Emmy on multiple occasions has scammed her audience through GoFundMe schemes, asking for money for a variety of ailments before mysteriously...
So... This pisses me off more because we just were able to complete that GoFundMe campaign. Technically not complete. More like succeed at the bottom of the 9th inning before a deadline was hit that would have put them on the street for my friend in Batavia, Ohio. So I'm extra pissed off hearing that. Things that I'm scared of, things that I've been scared of for years for why I've never done giveaways before. Metastasized right here.
Conventions.
Where's the reputational damage for that, Rachel? Where's the punishment for her?
In the interest of balance, I would like to challenge at least part of this, because when it comes to the claim that she used this money to attend conventions, that doesn't seem to be true. As when it comes to this period, she appears to have had a good working relationship with Sega, who would have covered her attendance. This is not to say whether I think Emmy is guilty or innocent of any of these accusations, but she does have an undeniable pattern when it comes to drama, which is damaging in this case because regardless of the validity of these claims against Saberspark, they do fit within this motif.
Right.
There are, of course, no perfect victims, and none of us should have those expectations, but in a case like this, where there is no evidence for the accusations being made, the credibility of the accuser is basically all I or anyone else has to go on.
Yep.
Now, when other people have looked into it, what they've found is a video called The Queen Falls by Lance Jerkov. And I'm gonna lay my cards on the table here. I have a bit of an issue with this video, and it feels a touch like a microcosm of this entire drama.
And that's alongside her reputation as a backstreet girl and a bad mother being so well known in this fandom that apparently people are just talking about it openly, with the final nail in the coffin being her association with Anime James and Toon Critic Y2K, two men who, let's just say, had a similar interest in women to Jared Fogle.
Because much of what is presented is a fragment of evidence, and then an awful lot of speculation. And this is true even for Drummond stuff. Yes, they had an affair, but we have no idea what that actually looked like. And it's used to paint Emmy as a home-wrecking bitch who actively tried to destroy Drummond's marriage. The fandom then does exactly what you'd expect. They treat Drummond as though he has no agency, and he is a victim of some insane ethos. Later on in the video, Lance would also present testimony from Steven Sayers, a now police officer but former employee of Sierra Games. But Emmy denies even knowing this person. And if it is true, the implications are incredibly fucked up. Because the dates that Sayers originally gives would mean that Emmy was a minor at the time. When Sayers is confronted on this fact, he quickly shifts position to saying it must have occurred in 2013, but that makes little sense with the overall timeline of Emmy's career. Irregardless, I don't know why we're taking the testimony of a guy who, while trying to shit on this chick, managed to make himself look like a nonce. Now, none of this should be treated as though I'm trying to mount some kind of defense of Emmy. I've got my own opinions on the allegations, but she won't talk to me. I have tried reaching out to have a conversation. She's simply not interested.
Pause. It is entirely possible to write a story while having made the attempt to get to a person to ask for question and comment, and then try to avoid giving question and comment. You do not need to investigate every single person and give them the chance to be heard. This goes alongside what I said earlier about forgiveness and second chances. If they wanted to be a part of the process, they would make time and be present. If they do not make time and they are not showing up to be present, to be a part of the situation, the solution, or the problem, they have no interest in being a part of it, and in fact would rather you shut the fuck up and go away. There are plenty of other reasons why a person could avoid something, but at this juncture, the only answer that remains is they don't want to be involved because you're either not going to help them, you're not going to give them the press that they want, you're not giving them the attention that they want or the frame spectrum that they want to discuss the matter in the way that they want this matter to be covered, so they're on that same Rachel timing. Or they simply do not want more people to be aware of something that they would rather them take to the grave. Completely normal response, completely normal behavior. Say it because they don't want to incriminate themselves. Say it because they feel that they should have the right to have peace and not have to relive their, quote, trauma. I know that the answer is because if they don't want to be involved in it, they know that them choosing to have a hand in the form of their destruction will be easy, juicy gossip that anyone will eat up, especially given the details of the situation. And considering how not forthcoming they were about this detail, that, of course, makes it very deeply interesting, especially to a man of my caliber.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, and above all else, the fact that this information is being hidden because you wanted to try to keep it anonymous, because you were trying to fight all that ahead of time, means that you understood what it looked like and you proceeded forward with this action anyways. You knew that it looked bad. You knew that you were litigating troubles and traumas that were not yours to be discussed. The victim didn't want to come forward as themselves, so you decided the best course of action was to drop that shit to a man who would be the bog standard expectation of the kind of shit that shouldn't be our concern on Twitter.com. And then you thought that you could just sit there and say, oh no one's going to question this, and if they do, we're going to call them mean words and say they don't actually care about victims? You thought that shit was a good look? You thought people weren't going to get fucking wise to the game? I don't know what kind of buttery nut you thought we all finna slip on, but we're not stupid TikTok people that barely know how to process drama. We have brains. We have brains, dude. This shit stinks before you even mention she was a popular person. Adding the fact that she's popular, or at least she has a career, and then adding on the things that happened in her youth, that destroys her credibility. So you should have definitely gone to the police. You go to the police, maybe I believe you a little bit more. You don't go to the police. I'm questioning the reason why we're here, other than the fact that now Beckett has to be the one that tells us. Because you didn't want to tell us. Your goal was to make sure you didn't tell us. So, I don't know, bro. Seeming like you need to have a good case of get sued.
Rather, what I'm trying to show you is that this community regularly works off half-truths and rumors. And that's pretty problematic when we're talking about very serious allegations.
Pause. I think it's just problematic in general because of how publicly online our concepts of society have become. It's the reason why my constant playlist of topics that refer to news is framed as the digital doorstep. When you have to connect this much information back to a person's personality and ask yourself how much of this is you trying to protect yourself and how much of this is you trying to save face, if the weight of this scale tips more in the direction of I want to save face because I know they're going to eat me alive, you can just go ahead and just sign off the internet, bro. Just go ahead and log off. Because it's not just that people are going to eat you alive. It's going to be the energy that you put in to treat people like a monster directly is going to contrast with how much you think people should treat you like a victim. And like, for me, as a content creator, I think more focus goes into the fact that we can't trust people to tell us the truth. And that I don't think a single content creator or a single type of person should have control of the narrative, or should have control of the frame control of the narrative, and use what is already known as clear identifying projects to decide that because they're my friend, I will not talk about them, or because they're my audience member, I will not expose them, or because I could potentially have a financial benefit kickback be given to me, should I help them in this matter at this time, that I should decide to make content or decide to focus content on this type of person because I decided it's good for my career. Because that makes us question what kind of person is, quote, safe. She's clearly an unsafe person. By the actions that are involved, well, they, both women, both Rachel and Emily, are unsafe people. They can't be trusted to tell the truth on this matter. And if it weren't for the sleuthing of all parties involved, putting more attention on it, then we wouldn't have gotten to this outcome that is in front of us now. There would be a version of this event where Saber Spark gets cancelled and we don't know the reasons why, and then only after everything's been said and done, and we've firmly torched his body in the center of the square for all to see, that Rachel reveals her final gambit in her final hand. And then we all stand there looking around saying, well, fuck, I got used. For that reason alone, as a content creator, that's the reason why I don't trust that. The reason why I don't trust that as a person is I have been dealing with this nonstop for the last 6 to 9 months, on and off, between people that I know personally and people who don't know a damn thing about me, doing exactly this mechanism. And it's annoying every time. It's annoying every time. So, doing that level of work, just as an individual, is bad enough. Having to remind people, hey, don't forget, you don't have reason and license to forget yourself. Before you decide to say that they're guilty, make sure you're right. Not just because stay out of a court of law, never have to cast an allegation, never have to defend myself, but the more work that you do to do this kind of action, the more you actually give the worst of the worst the opportunity to come back and, rebuild a career, because you can't stop them, because now you've revealed that your plan was always to lie to people's faces directly, to get them to do what you wanted. And, how many times has Onision used this exact factor as a way to rebuild his career from basically seemingly the heir of nothing, even though we should definitely have gotten rid of him years ago? There are plenty of figures that this has mattered for. Ascension, Cookie Lol, known internet pedophiles that there are too many to count just amongst the bronies.
Uh-huh.
How many content creators have been able to have a career still because, yeah, but they didn't go to the cops? Yeah, but, you decided you cared more about canceling me than you did about getting the evidence. Yeah, but it didn't matter to you what I said and did. You just wanted to have a victim, and you just wanted to victimize me. It kind of takes away any kind of apologetics and any kind of understanding, because they have a point. It's a completely solid legal case. They have to constantly look over their shoulders forever because somebody that didn't like how they decided somebody was treating them felt that they had the high ground to treat them unhumanely and then forever try to control their career and control the spaces that they're allowed to go to. And then afterwards tried to dominate the narrative to say, but, the community's never been healthier! Hacks money. You can't speak on this person's actions! Don't you understand? We were making it safer! Okay, you were making it safer. Hey, man who's lost his leg because you were driven to despair and suicide by people tormenting you with your life's work. How do you feel about the fact that they did this to you? Damn, it seems like the dead don't talk, bro. Like, I'm not even being facetious. This is exactly what happened to Hacks Money. This is what happens to Hacks Money. This is what happens to any content creator who's ever being tortured publicly that can't defend themselves, and they know they can't defend themselves because the principles that they believe in are effectively the same principles being used against them to punish them. There's no solving this kind of problem. The only answer is more DACA. Kill it with fire.
Even this video...
I would go so far. The thing that should happen when you're revealed to have done this is your channel should be immediately banned. No appeal. You're just gone. You leave YouTube. And then they possibly get to sue you in a court of law afterwards. YouTube themselves. But that's my personal opinion. I'm the crazy man here. Understand that I admit that this is a position that it seems harsh. But you know what? I'm fucking tired of this shit. It is not our jobs as members of the public to decide how someone is or is not guilty. And yes, most of us record this shit not just for public safety, not just for public knowledge, not just because it's a funny thing that's happening, not just because it's a situation that we want to get involved in, not just because it's something that you should be made aware of, but because of the fact that the only reason why this shit happens is that the only way to correct this kind of problem is to use the tool against the people that would use the tool incorrectly. That's the only reason why we do this. And I am going to take liberty and say the collective we, that includes commentary channels, content creators, whatever person happens to make money on the internet by entertaining an audience full of people for anywhere between 4 to 8 hours on end with either throwaway topics or interesting topics of the week or the month or the year. It's not supposed to be our job to do this. Go to the law. If you cannot go to the law and you use this to improve your career, you do not need a job. You do not need to be a YouTuber. This shit is not high school. The less people treat this shit like it's something you should do, like the topic of a film, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, the better. If your first instance, if your first desire when dealing with this is to treat this shit like an opportunity to increase your career metrics, get out!
Video from Lance. Great example. Because I was asking the question as to why somebody would drop a video like this when they've got a fairly consistent upload schedule and then seemingly vanish from their channel and not upload for a year. And when I went looking for that answer, multiple people would tell me that Lance had allegations against him. No one provided any evidence for this, but if anything, that's exactly what I'd expect. This has obviously become so normalized for this community. And so now, as we move into how these allegations were handled, it begins to make a lot more sense why nobody questioned these allegations against Saberspark before platforming them. Somewhat depressingly, and ironically, one of the few examples I can find of anyone doing any due diligence is actually from KP back in March, when they were talking to Brony Fandom about another victim who'd been handed off to them, and had turned tail and run the minute they were asked difficult questions. And KP even states, yeah, figured I would check, because God forbid we are wrong. A sentiment which would have been useful to keep in mind when the next day rolled around and she was presented with Emmy's victim story. Emmy would be funneled towards KP through Bonk and Amy. For those wondering who Amy is, the most information I could get is that they are somebody's wife. That's literally it. But apparently they'd known about this since 2015, allegedly. KP would then work with Emmy to get the statement prepared for release. Now, as a clarifier here, there was some editing of this statement, but as I can see it being sent by Brony Fandom, I can confirm that the bulk of Emmy's statement was not guided or influenced by KP. Nevertheless, I was interested to know how much input she had had, and when I set Jenny to work on a little bit of digging, she found the Google Doc that KP had originally put out. Now, because nobody knows how to protect Google documents apparently, Jenny was able to retrieve the edit history, which includes notes from KP intended to guide Emmy in improving the statement. This level of involvement is not apparent in KP's video. She does not make it clear that she has been working closely with the victim before the release of this statement. This allows her in the video to look like an impartial observer, just reporting on these allegations, which is not the case. But once again, I think it is best that you just hear this all from KP. So there was a Google Doc that was posted that you did and put up with her basically her full statement. The one that was also posted on Twitter in screenshots.
Oh, okay.
So
I guess I forgot I did that, but yes.
How much influence did you have on that statement?
I already discussed this with Enter and Lazy. I just gave critique. I gave screenshots. Here, I'll get the screenshots of me giving critique to it.
You were too involved, bitch.
And Courtney gave feedback as well.
Okay.
She's way too fucking close. Way too fucking close. You're fiddling and dropping over yourself trying to find the documentation that you should just have ready and waiting prepared because, hey, you're organized. You know what you're talking about. Real victims, guys.
When you say critique, what are we talking about here?
Flow of things. That's
a lot of ums! That's a lot of ums, girl!
Basic English stuff, like nothing really She wrote most of it herself, and I was like, let me put this into paragraphs and give feedback on like the grammar and the general flow of it. That was really it.
I don't know. I don't know if I accept that, Rachel. You know what I think I should do? I think I should have had. No, he's clearly fucking innocent. I think I should have had a video of you and Emily in a room. I think I should have had control of a video document demonstrating that you and her collectively together were indeed writing it as just suggestions. I think I should also have a statement from you about how you felt while those things were being said. And I should also be allowed to record a zoom in on your facial structure every time I ask you these questions. And then I should have the ability to destroy your career by showing how you respond when serious investigation into allegations is handled involving a supposed victim of sex crime, and how you think it's pedantic and annoying that your standards are being used against you. I think that's what I should be able to do. You think I should be allowed to do, her? I think I should be allowed to do that.
Totally.
Because that's what you're asking about Saberspark. That's what you were asking about any fucking person involved in this story. Don't you bite your lip at me, Video Safe. Don't you bite your lip at me.
Okay, I'm just having a quick read of this. So, generally speaking, you were in conversations with Emmy, and you were working on the flow of this statement to present something to the public. I mean, I suppose my core question is, why didn't you provide an interview call with Emmy if you kind of had access to that?
She was afraid. I mean, I even asked her if she wanted to verbally read her own testimony in the video, but she was afraid that people could recognize her because she's a voice actor, her voice. And then I said, well, why don't we pitch it? What if we pitch it down? And she says, no, I think people would still be able to recognize it just based on how I speak. And I was like, okay. So.
Okay. You understand that kind of the way this looks from your video is you have a victim statement that looks far more distant from you than is the reality. And then you have a long conversation with Courtney where you are essentially providing context to how you are seeing this, almost at a distance, which is, I would say, fairly misleading to an audience.
Yeah, the idea with that is I'm just not familiar with SA in general.
So why are you talking on this matter as an expert?
Yeah. Why are you doing this? Why are you fucking involved?
Don't you think that you should be able to be hands-off about it and think, oh, it's not my story, not my circus, not my monkeys, and I'm certainly not going to be the ringleader? But hey, you definitely put on the cap of P.T. Barnum and said, let's do a circus of drama!
And you know why?
Because she was
Because she wanted an own on Saberspark, because she's a petty fucking cunt.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it could be because you're jealous. It could be because you wanted to spurn him and show him just how useful you could have been. I don't know. We don't care. Not our problem. Go to jail. Not my problem. Go to jail. She should go to jail for doing that.
I believe that you are familiar with Courtney's history. She was someone I trusted, so I just felt like it would be helpful in a call to talk about it from someone's an SI's survivor's perspective. So that was kind of the intention.
Hey, sex survivor, you should talk about how you felt about being assaulted by your not she, him, and she, he man brother, while we talk about how this other survivor who may or may not be lying out of her ass, and or if she was victimized, has gone the worst direction possible to address the issue. You should definitely talk about this with me on a video call as, you know, a presser of how people should feel when discussing sexual violence. You know, as an expert. Instead of going to the police with me so we can get a problem addressed and solved. Since neither of us are legal experts and are not law enforcement.
Okay.
But they won't get clout
there's
that
another
way.
element to this. In that Google document, you are providing editing notes at points where you're saying that here's where you should mention this was non-consensual in both those instances.
Coaching.
Yeah, that was I just wanted to make a note to make that clear because that's what she said to me. So
I mean, I'll be honest, what it looks like is that you had somebody come to you with a victim story and then you tailored their victim impact statement, which is
that's exactly what happened.
Quite bad. But I've seen little bits of kind of conversations through Lio where, you know, there's a question with one of the other members of the DA group where it's like, well, should we re-record the interview? And Lio says, well, no, let the interview stand as is. You can provide context afterwards, but the interview should stand as your interview. When you've got something like this, the way it looks to me is you've got, okay, well, this is the statement from the victim. I know that I'm going to use this in a video. How do I make this, like, what are the points that I need to hit with an audience? Which is,
Don't worry, Beckett. I'll translate for you. We got to hang it right now, chat. How to make this rip up? What are the words I need to say to emphasize how she was pressed up against that elevator and he was giving it to her? Hard, raw, and fast. Beckett's too nice. Beckett's too nice. I'm going to say it for him, okay? That's what you need to have a crash out Cajun for. African Americans are very good at expressing themselves, chat. That's the truth.
You also have to take in Carl, but you also have to take in mind if he's mean, they don't talk.
You're right. I'm not saying in the context where we have this in hindsight, if he's mean, he doesn't talk. That's half the reason he's not going to do it that way. He's trying to find nice words to say what I'm saying to you because I don't have to be nice.
Yep.
And I want to make clear, she knows that's what he's saying, and that's why there's so many pregnant pauses.
I mean, not great.
I mean, so was the general critique, I just let them talk and I didn't, like, ask them, like, I'm not really following.
So the general...
So I just let them talk and I don't let them ask questions? Yes! That's what listening is! And now, chat, we're gonna learn to count our ABCs!
Critique is this. You let them talk, and then you took their statement and tailored it to be more impactful for content that you were planning to release. And at the same time, I've got statements from Brony Fandom that you also provided statements to the other DA victims, which was sort of a line to take.
I don't remember. Can you put that screenshot in there? I don't really remember that.
Yeah, give me 1 second. It would have been this one.
Oh, I mean, I just wrote that to be helpful, so he didn't have to do it. And my intention was essentially like, hey, I wrote a thing, change it however you feel fit. So that was, and I guess he thought that I was trying to put words into his mouth. And I just like, so things that I assumed were like he had talked to the victim extensively. He didn't, and I didn't know that. So, you know, I guess I was the only one that talked to her extensively, besides Amy. Yeah, he's one of my people, or one of the people I need to kind of talk to, but I'm also afraid he's gonna screenshot me in context again, and, you know, that's...
Yep.
Also, some context, guys. This Amy person, yeah, she's dating someone who has been known to share CP. Or at least the drawn variety of CP. Very weird shit. Yeah. Just wanted to give you that insight on who this Amy person is.
I think that statement she just was about to say is very important.
He's one of my people, or one of the people I need to kind of talk to, but I'm also afraid he's gonna screenshot me out of context again, and, you know, that's scary as well, so.
Pause. Screenshot you out of context. Is that like when you record somebody without their knowledge and then use that information to damage their reputation? Is that what that's like? Damn, it's very good that you decided to understand. You understand what the fear of that is. Would you then characterize that as having the fear of God put into you? Would you say you have a God complex, Rachel?
I would.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it's partly... I mean, what I run up against is when I see stuff like this. You said, you know, putting words in people's mouths. The problem is what I've got to go on is kind of like what I can pick through and see, which timeline-wise is there are multiple documents being written, including the large DA document, which had way more victim impact statements, many of which have been pulled entirely. I believe one of them is Jamesy.
Yeah, Jamie also got a cease and desist, so that scared him.
Right.
Pull out entirely.
So what I've got in front of me is multiple documents in which there have been many chefs involved in these particular kitchens, and it feels very guided, which is concerning when we're talking about hit pieces, because then, you know, how much is influenced not just by the people who may have gone through these things, but by people who are looking to then utilize them, because Brony Fando has been going after Black Griffin in this group for years now.
Just to be clear, I had nothing to do with the DA Games document. Those were written way before I got involved, just to clarify.
Okay. Can you just explain some of these edits in this document then? Like, what does the highlighted in purple mean?
Why are you taking such a long time to answer, Rachel? Get snappy! Snappy! Snappy!
What lie am I gonna use this time?
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. So yeah, it's a placement of things of like bring up the fact that he did not ask for consent here.
Yeah, well, I just gave screenshots that gave more context to that. So I guess it was Courtney's note, because Courtney also gave some feedback on the statement, and
keep in mind, chat, Courtney is Lily Orchard's sister.
Sure, I mean, again.
I repeat, keep in mind, Courtney is Lily Orchard's sister. Yeah, a lot of people that are involved in this are not very good people. You're not setting yourself up for success.
I get this is a collaborative process, and Courtney's not here to sort of give her side of what happened, so I don't want to start just blaming people who aren't around. I suppose at a core level, and this is why people are focusing on the Saber Spark stuff, what you have is testimony of something that happened over a decade ago, from one person who chose to remain anonymous, who has a long internet history, which is mixed. Again, like, I'm sure that there are two sides to the Emmy story. In fact, a few people are quite interested in the other side of that Emmy story. You know,
yeah, well, I'm gonna attempt to get it, because she seems to. I mean, obviously, don't release these screenshots publicly, at least not now without asking. But she seems to trust me right now, so for lack of a better word, I'm pretty fucking pissed, and I feel like a dupe that was put on for a ride. But
Aww, you feel like you were put on for a ride? You feel like you were tricked and used? Left home after the sock hop with your legs drippy and sticky? That's how all of us feel! Emphasis on being used, mind you.
Implication with everything, so Bonk came to me with this story because he was having mental health problems at the time and he didn't have the energy to deal with it. So my understanding,
poor baby.
Feel free to ask him, this was going to come out regardless of me. So I was just there already making a video about it, so it just seemed like
Sure, but this stuff had been building for a while on some of the DA stuff. I can see that from the documents, but this stuff with Emmy seems to have come right out of the blue, right where you needed it, and you seem to not have questioned, should we say, the good fortune of that happening. You seem to have just gone, oh great, cool, well now I've got something to go at Saber with.
Well, let me clarify. So I would imagine you can ask Amy about this. I don't how long maybe she said 2023, I think. But she has known about this for a couple of years. Amy is Peter New's wife, who I mean, don't tell her I sent you because she doesn't like me right now. But
why should that matter? Rape is on the line. Why do I have to hide information about what's going on? I think the rape matters more, huh?
Oh, they've already fucked that up, though.
She was the one I originally talked to get in contact with.
Is that the other Pegasus sister or whatever the hell?
No, I don't think Amy has a presence in the fandom.
Okay, because I'm just, like, even for me, I'm just trying to make sense of who half these people are. Now, it might be slightly hypocritical for me, of all people, to criticize someone else for becoming too involved in a story, but there are lines to this, and getting a victim to edit their impact statement is certainly a line. While KP argues this is to clarify and fill in gaps, these edits read far more as trying to remove any semblance of doubt and emphasize things like the power imbalance.
Correct! That's why I read it the way I read it! It reads like a Saturn surrender novel, specifically designed by a person who has intimate knowledge. Like they spend way too fucking long on Fondnet fandub and AO3. Like they know exactly how to get to the emotional core of the particular audience that they're selling it towards, which is women, 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 women.
Making sure a victim's impact statement fits more easily with the arguments you're going to make in your video is certainly highly unethical. Within the DM logs between KP and Emmy, KP provides feedback from Courtney Pete. One particular line of interest is, and it sort of kills me that she might be giving any sort of grace to him at the expense of herself, because he considered it implied. And this isn't just a throwaway line, it's intermingled amongst a tirade on how consent works, emphasizing why that line in particular is an issue. It would work too. Emmy does change her statement because of this feedback. Hey, sorry, I removed the part giving him grace by saying I understand he may have thought consent was implied. Courtney is definitely right. I just know his retort is going to be him believing consent was there. Courtney is right though, it was never implied, even if I did like him at the time. This is direct evidence that KP and Courtney worked to tailor the victim's statement to make it more damaging.
Which pisses me off more, because if we're gonna play the game of what does enthusiastic consent mean, by the variation of this story, assuming that we're grown adults, and we know that grown adults can consent non-verbally, you're in a place alone with him. You go to another place alone with him. You stay in that place alone with him. Under no circumstance, especially if we add in the fact that you're a public figure, that if you were to be ever held victim to the story coming out, you can clearly say, no, I wanted it at the time. What I do not consent is to you using me like I'm a frat boy story. Admit that, listen guys, aren't you a woman? Don't you get lonely? Don't you want the thrill of having public sex? Don't you think it's cool to just, let your hair down once in a while and then let him pull it? Assuming that we're all grown adults and we understand how grown adults can non-verbally consent, it makes me more annoyed that you have edited the victim impact statement to sound like a risque satin, S-A-T-I-N, satin surrender novel, because you are more desperate to control the optics of the narrative to make sure you have more people upset for her, so that when they've learned the actual details, if they ever would have learned the actual details, they can fully understand how committed they were to deceiving you. That is probably the most important part here for me.
And the reason this is an issue is because it's not how Emmy necessarily sees the situation. It is KP and Courtney trying to influence Emmy to perceive the situation through their lens. If you care about what victims have to say, and this story is full of people who don't care what victims have to say, you should respect those original statements. But as if to perfectly encapsulate my point of how fucking careless everyone here is, I went to check the release statement, and that section about implied consent is still present. I thought I was losing my mind for a second because I've read these DMs, so I went back to check, and I'm right. I'm showing you the original statement supplied by Emmy to KP, and I've highlighted the word implied. But if we scroll all the way down to her updated statement, and I cannot fucking believe this, it's gone. Emmy did make this edit, but KP is paying so little attention, she didn't even include it in the final document for release. No wonder those involved in this didn't care about the fact that Emmy has no evidence for the allegations she's making. They don't even care about her actual testimony. And don't worry, because this situation somehow becomes more absurd. Because you'll remember, Lyo advised KP that this was a matter for the authorities, and they would require at the very least a police statement to be filed if they were planning to run this story. One of the things that got sort of mentioned was Lyo's involvement, and I was interested in how far that involvement kind of went. I mean, maybe you can speak to that. It doesn't seem like Lyo is, from what I have seen, that involved. He doesn't seem to have seen the video before it came out. I think Lyo said to me when asked about this particular statement and this victim, his advice was, don't run this. That seems to have been his involvement. And go to the police about stuff. Is that unfair?
I don't remember the don't run this, but yeah, we did have an extensive conversation where we recommended that she go to the police and get a police report first. And she didn't want to...
We? Bitch, you ain't French! Who is this we?
The don't run this was when I told you shouldn't put this in a video.
Okay.
Because the police report wasn't filed. That's what he's referring to.
Okay, well that's why we released it on Twitter first to
which is
kind
smart.
of have it
Well, I don't know.
we didn't want to release it to the cops, so instead we put it out in the court of public opinion. One more time.
That's what he's referring to.
Okay, well that's why we released it on Twitter first to kind of have it.
One more time.
Police report first.
The don't run this was when I told you you shouldn't put this in a video.
Okay.
Because the police report wasn't filed. That's what he's referring to.
Okay, well that's why we released it on Twitter first to kind of have it.
Well, I don't know if that helps, because that, if anything, makes it worse, KP, because it looks like you've gone, oh, we don't have a police report, but if this is gaining traction on Twitter, then I can put it in a video you are already making with a victim you are already speaking to.
It unironically somehow is Mama Max all over again, but from the woman's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up. I'm back in the fucking circle!
I don't really have a response to that.
Okay.
I don't think you would, dumbass.
It's like so what I'm running up against here is there are going to be multiple sort of views on this video, from everything from stupidity to malice. I don't know where I sit with that at the moment, I'll be honest, because, you know, I know you by your own admission do not like this group of people. You have a history with them. You handed stuff that was you couldn't substantiate from years ago, and you know, you use that to make essentially rape by coercion argument against somebody without even speaking to Saber about it. I mean, it's pretty fucking wild, frankly.
No, I get it.
Do you get it, Rachel? Do you get it?
I think she do.
You're fucking wild, frankly.
No, I get it. No, I was just stupid and I wanted to. She came to me. She Bonk already knew I was making this video. It just seemed like another victim testimony to add, like the DA Games one.
Unsurprisingly, when we're dealing with a community that just repeats things they've heard over and over again until they somehow become true, even when it is, once again, life-ruining accusations, KP and others, and we're about to get to those people, worked on the assumption that once this was out on Twitter, coverage of it was fair game. But to be clear, in the DMs, KP is scheduling this with Brony Fandom, and the statement itself even goes out early and has to be removed. Despite how fucked up all of this is, the level of incompetence is unironically just fucking hilarious. Predictably, once the video had been released and the backlash was in, these little rats started fleeing the sinking ship. Fandom's DMs here are pretty interesting, but we'll get to his section in a little bit. However, one thing I want to point out is this tweet from May 5th, where Fandom says, I talked with her in call about the problems. She told me she was surprised by the reactions because her team and the victim viewed it prior and liked it. I did not realize at the time that she was lying. Well, I can prove that in this case at least KP wasn't, because Emmy did see the video and had a positive reaction to it. Before we move forward though, I do think it is valuable that you hear something that isn't just my opinion or KP's own statements. And one person who's known this group of people for a significant period of time is Henry, Saberspark's editor. Let's talk about KP and your experiences with her.
Sure.
How did you first get to meet KP?
Through the convention scene. So going to different conventions, basically she would either be a panelist or a guest. She would show up to these cons, and even back in the early days, it was kind of, everyone was trying to be friends together and establish relationships, but you would find that there were some people that just, you weren't necessarily vibing with, or that they weren't on the same wavelength. So KP was one of those individuals early on to me that I just got a sense of entitlement and a sense of, her demeanor was very off-putting. So a lot of people kind of created this mindset, like, don't necessarily include KP if she's trying to wedge her way into panels and or scenes on these convention floors and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I have firsthand experience of times where I've had to kind of create that wall for her to just say, like, don't try to come into our space, because you have the sense that, like, nepotism, or not nepotism, what is it, narcissism? Yeah, like narcissism is strong with her.
So I wouldn't say it would be nepotism. It would be what's a more negative word for audacity combined with ego? Because it's not narcissism. There's a specific word for this. In lieu of finding a word better for that, it's more the forward-thinking nature of social climbing. So we're hearing from one of her own people that she is a social climber who will get involved because she sees an opportunity to increase her status. And they are unironically doing the meme of, nah, bro, you can't go in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you give me some examples of some experiences you guys have just had with KP over the years? Because I know, you know, Saber mentioned their relationship in the response, and I think it would be helpful for people to get that picture.
Yeah. So, well, a first-hand experience would be so at Equestria LA 2017, we had a bad fanfic reading panel. KP showed up. She was sitting in the front row, kind of heckling us the whole time, saying, "Hey, let me go up on stage." You know, just trying to kind of wedge her way into this thing where we had to, you know, get prior approval to get this panel approved. We had the people who are panelists on that panel. She has done this many times where it's kind of, you know, she thinks she knows best or that she should be included and tries to wedge her way in. Other experiences that, you know, I wasn't necessarily firsthand for. She was at Cider Fest, and a artist named Jen Blake had a booth in the vendor hall. KP, you know, trying to talk to Jen, positions herself kind of behind the vendor table, and as Jen is taking on commissions and, you know, interacting with guests who are there for her, KP wedges herself in and says, you know, "Oh, I'd be willing to, you know, take some commissions, you know, if you guys want from me," and kind of almost like trying to funnel business away from the actual comic artist that works on IDW's, you know, MLP comics. And I could tell that Jen was very uncomfortable about the whole situation and kind of made it clear that, you know, KP was not welcome to be there anymore.
That's just scab behavior. That's fuck ass scab behavior. She should have been banned from the convention floor for doing that. And the convention. For a minimum of 10 years.
Because, like, yeah, she just didn't have, like, this concept of what she was doing was wrong. And she has many instances of that. I mean, I can even point to another one where it's more of a private thing, so it's not necessarily something where I'm going to say I had firsthand experience, but I heard the story. So she moved to California, and who was it? Rachel Bloom was having a show within LA, and she's a well-known individual. Kind of, you know, has a.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Awards and history, you know, and I can see the appeal of wanting to go to, say, like a Rachel Bloom show. She's a fan. The problem is that KP kept telling people that she had an in or like some sort of connection to, you know, talk to Rachel Bloom, and she really wanted to go to the show to kind of hand over her portfolio and see if they could work together on stuff. Well, she lied about that. She never actually had like a connection with Rachel Bloom. She just knew that the show was going to happen, and she was going to kind of more or less spring it on her at the end and just like wait outside the stage door to give her things. But when people, you know, asked her, "Hey, how do you have a connection with this? Like, how did you, you know, broker this deal?" You know, she's lying the whole time, saying, "Oh, well, you know, I have a way to, you know, get to her and talk to her about this stuff, and I just want to see if she wants to work on this project, you know, a video project." And yeah, it's just, it's example after example. Casey and I, well, mainly Casey, tried really hard when she first moved to LA to be a mentor for her. I had already had my prior experience with her, so I had written her off kind of as, I'll believe it when I see it, like her attitude change and her demeanor change. But when she moved to LA, she was very much in the mindset of, hey, I want to kind of like, you know, start over. I want to, you know, be better. So Casey offered to be her mentor and pointed out many times where it was like, hey, you can't kind of act this way towards people. You need to also be mindful that, you know, if people don't want to be friends with you, you don't have that right to say, you know, you need to be friends with me. The narcissism part, you know, rearing its head. I would just say that KP had many examples of another individual who she had beef with was AC Race Best. He basically said, I don't want to be friends with you a long time ago. I think Casey, you know, suggested that KP reach out and try to get to the bottom of why they never could be friends. He gave her a detailed response as to why his reasons, and she lashed out. She basically started cursing him out, sending him a long message. I'm sure there is a chat log out there that could actually be presented for that. But it goes to show that she definitely has had both a beef with Steven and other individuals who haven't kind of, in her mind, lifted her up with them. You know, they became successful, and she saw it as, why not me? You know, her content in the community as a whole was kind of lackluster, or like, you know, it got views, but as soon as, you know, she kind of wanted to shift away from that, she couldn't pivot in a way where her content was thriving. So I think she very much internalized a lot of this, like, why is it that Steven was able to do that with Saberspark? Why is it that other individuals are able to make your livelihood, you know, work for them? So yeah, those are just some of the examples.
Firstly, you wanted to add a correction for Henry.
Excuse me. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be so fucking nice. There is a world where if she could probably change her attitude and her behavior, they could probably give her advice on how she could do it by herself. And if she didn't strike me as such a lovesick type of individual who wants to put her willingness to involve herself with other people on other people's doorstep, as though if they do not help her, they have somehow wronged her. They have betrayed the energy of the YouTuber, what's a nice way to say, brotherhood. The Pegasisters and brony collective of omnipotent autists. If she somehow is not lifted with all rising tides to content because she really, 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 really wants it, and man, she could suck a mean penis, that this somehow is a fault that everybody else has to hear about forever because she's that unhinged. There's no world where that is acceptable. A world where she can probably take accountability for those problems and understanding that those things happen and they are serious and they were real, but not using that as a way to fucking punish people that just don't want to be associated with you. I don't think that's okay. I don't think that's okay whatsoever. That's fucking weird. That's fucking weird. Because I feel like the love connection with Saber Spark is the thing that probably annoys me the most. Because it feels like she constantly is pulling away from that as an honest truth, when it is very much the case. At least for me.
The Race Best story.
Oh yeah, I never advised Rachel to contact Jeffrey at all. I talked to her after she had lashed out, and I was not happy with her, and I told her as much. This is all very just disappointing and sad for me personally. So I'm sorry if I sigh quite a bit. I pointed out that they have very little in common other than liking one TV show in the whole world. And what is her deal with wanting to be friends with this one guy? And she didn't have a very good answer for me. She struggled with that. She literally stammered to the point where I don't actually remember what she said. It wasn't very substantial. But no, I did not tell her to reach out to Jeff. He told me that she lashed out, and you could probably tell the story of how frustrated I was with her because I went to bat for Rachel. And I had told people that moving to LA had caused her to grow and mature as a person. It is difficult. The entertainment industry is difficult. Let's be real. And
I think moving to LA is the opposite of what causes you to have emotional growth. I think when you move to California for the intentions of getting into the entertainment industry, and you don't already have roots that keep you centered, you become the type of jerk that is Vito Goswalti and the host of The Biggest Problem in the Universe, Dick Masterson, as a primary nature of what you become. Because your content and your involvement becomes focused on social climbing. So you can't actually make an improvement for yourself if you're not already somebody with talent and skill, because you're always liaisoning your problems through somebody else and your success on somebody else and the favors that they can provide you. The only thing that does not account for this is not YouTubers, but esports players. They have to go where the work is. And that is a talent in and of itself that most of these people would never be able to perform for. Because it's a different type of world, it's a different type of content creator, it's a different type of life, and it has even more association dealing with fans and people's involvements than anything else. I pray tell to remind people of the drama that was Caterino as a part of Temple Storm, and for the 7th time. A memorable point in Twitch history, memorized in the form of song on Howie's channel. That kind of social problem that comes from, hey yo, this girl is an e-thought and she's out here slanging coochie, and you should get a piece before she's not gonna give a piece to no one else. That's an actual real thing happening here. I am scared to think that the reason why Rachel moved to California is so that she could get that kind of social climbing opportunity, following the advice of Emily. I'm so scared, chat, but I'm gonna make a bet. I'm not putting any money on it because I feel like I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. If she moved to California, specifically hoping to copy the technique and the standard of Emily, the reason why she's upset is that she wanted to do the same thing she did, but she couldn't find a way to make it happen. I'm scared to think that that's the case. I don't think very highly of this woman.
Fresh and cream.
And I don't want to put that on people. But, bro, I think she wanted to be a hoe. And it wasn't working out because she realized ain't nobody want to fuck her. Am I wrong, Horror?
Nope. You ain't wrong.
She was trying, and I thought maybe it would have...
Also, let me read that real quick. Pro tip, only move to Cali if you have to. Thank you, Just a Girl, and welcome back.
given her some life perspective that she had lacked before, and then she went and made me out to be a liar, and I was super not happy with her about that.
Like, I mean, is it fair to say that this is the end of any industry contact she had left? That essentially it's destroyed any remaining friendship she had?
That's, as far as my sphere, that's pretty accurate. I know that people that I know that if I say something, I mean it. And I did tell everyone. I posted the link to my Twitter and I said, this is my stance. I just want all of you to know. And I already knew that a lot of our mutuals had put her on the information diet. So, like, did this do it? I don't think so. She'd already dug the grave. This is just the last pile of dirt. As far as industry contacts, what did she have?
Before we move forward, I want to add a little disclaimer here, because we're going to talk about the other people who were involved in this. And I don't want this to come across as some sort of exoneration of KP and Courtney. It's just that there are other people involved with blood on their hands. Since the video came out, a lot of people have been trying to use them as scapegoats, understandably. But realistically speaking, many of these people should not be feeling particularly smug right now. There are obviously levels of blame to go around, but one particular group, and where we're going to start, is people who have also run allegations fed to them by Brony Fandom. Because, realistically, they've done exactly the same thing as KP did, they've just been lucky about it. And this little group can be perfectly encapsulated through one particular YouTuber, Lazy Bedhead. The reason we're starting here, of all places, is because on levels of culpability, just believing a document that's handed to you is something that, generally speaking, a lot of YouTubers do, trusting that the vetting has already been done for them. In fact, this is KP's defense for why she fucked this up. She believed that Brony Fandom and Amy had already vetted Emily. Now, is this incredibly dumb? Of course it is. But my annoyance comes from the fact that it's shockingly common in this story.
Pinky and would ask Pinky if she liked a picture of his penis. Destiny would straight up delete the Twitter account.
That's a jump scare. Beckett, you have to warn me when you put a hand beast on screen, bro!
That's Lazy Bedhead. I actually like most of her content, but I agree with Beckett here that she really fucked up on this video.
Everybody involved in this story that has wrongdoing fucked up on this story, but I'm very certain... I can't make that joke, that's mean. But... no, I'm gonna do it anyways. By the look of their fashion, you can tell they fucked up in life. Shame me, chat. Shame me. It's like being jump scared by Frogan. Frogan's a jump scare for a different reason. This is a jump scare because you're just expecting this to be someone who's gonna go through this information with the kind of fine-tooth comb that you'd expect yourself to go through. But, like, bro, I don't know. I'm not a person to say that you shouldn't attack the argument. But I'm in a situation where I'm going to be like, for an exception in this case, for one night only, we're attacking the argument and the person. Of course, this is for a comedic bit, but I'm really not in the mood to deal with the kind of people who are going to fly by they them and get by the seat of their pants and their fucking suspension bra or binder, chest binder. Because I'm not in the mood to listen to the ranting and raving that comes from the permanently online TikTok woman audience. All of this story clearly was tailored for a permanently online TikTok woman audience. In the alternate timeline where Jabot gets canceled and we don't find out until after they got away with it, I expect to see Louis McClung and Cataclysms here next to this bitch. That's who runs this type of content. They don't do research. Their research is, I heard from a friend of a friend. Or, more accurately, for those two, I was told by Alice that he's a bad person, and anyone associated with him was a bad person. Therefore, I don't need to hear anything else. Give me the gun right now. Click, click. I'm going to shoot him in the head right here. So I'm already not happy. I'm already annoyed. This is just more ammunition to justify why I'm upset. I don't need to be justified. But you should feel my anger through the screen with me, chat.
Like, we do, trust me.
We all have our own opinions. We all have our things to say. But, bro, I cannot express enough and repeat enough how annoying it is that we keep finding ourselves hearing about dog shit opinions and arguments from people that know that half the reason why they use online personas isn't because they're fucking ham beasts and ugly, but because they're spiritually ugly on the inside. And God just made saw fit to express that ugliness in ways that we can witness, so that we can be able to enjoy the fact that we are amongst God's chosen people. Beautiful, big-dicked, big-breasted, in the spirit and in the chest.
Associated with this interaction and wouldn't rediscover Black Griffin until years later when he voiced Alistair in the Hazbin Hotel pilot. Destiny also addressed the creators of Billy Bust-Up, which we can discuss later. Now, since this was when Destiny was 13 years old, hindsight is 2020, so none of the chats or this dick pic was ever documented or screenshots taken. So for now, these are just allegations from memory. Although I do think this testimony coming forward does sort of confirm the sneaking suspicion that people have had about Gabe for years up until this point. Sourced from Courtney Pete's own video, she interviews 2 individuals who have been a part of the brony community and convention spaces for years. Even they have testified that con staff and community members had speculated of Gabriel's grooming relationship with Claire for decades.
Now this...
You see what I'm talking about? No substantiation of evidence. You're leaning forward into the accusations, teeing them up like you're a fucking shoutcaster doing your first ever coverage of an event. You have no idea what's happening. You don't understand any of the particular parts that are necessary for understanding the function of what you're dealing with. You're just full brain cell, full fucking elephant, rampaging through the china shop, knocking shit over and breaking things. And only after you've been told, you had absolutely 0 point to do that and everything's fucked up, do you look at what they're saying like, you know what, how do other people believe you? I know I don't believe your ass. How does she believe your ass? It disgusts me.
Requires us to talk a little bit about the Black Griffin allegations. I don't want to go too deep here because it is a hell of a rabbit hole, so we're going to focus on the Destiny allegations in particular. To give you a TLDR, Destiny claims that in 2012, she interacted with Gabe, and during those interactions, while she was a minor, Gabe would flirt with her and also offered her a dick pic. Much like the allegations against Saberspark, there is no evidence for this. And even in...
Pause. I have seen and witnessed multiple other content creators that have been students of voice actors or students of entertainment coaches that have trained them on PR relations. I cannot attest towards a dick pic, but I have seen multiple types of content creators try to be nice to their audiences, try to be flirtatious with their audience within reason, by the means of teasing them just ever so nicely. I think once I've done something to this regard myself. In public. Going to one of these workshops. But it was a person who was affiliated with the production of the workshop. It's probably okay and normal for you to have a flirtatious interaction with a voice actor if you're completely above the board about it. I don't think taking innocuous involvements with other people out of the context that they happened in is acceptable or okay. Especially considering the people that are doing it are a bunch of fucking autists that don't know how to properly have an interaction with people in the slightest in the first place. But again, that's just me though.
In the document, it is noted that it can't have been in 2012 because Twitter didn't even add the function to send pictures in DMs until December of 2013. And yet Lazy Bedhead uses the fact the allegations even exist in the first place to try and label Black Griffin a predator. And I'd like you to keep in mind here that Fando themselves admits that they don't have proof behind the Destiny allegations. In fact, they were using those allegations in an attempt to gay up and blackmail Black Griffin. When that didn't work, they released them anyway. And yes, I can already hear the scratching in my comment section. But Beckett, Black Griffin is a well-documented groomer. I'm not saying that Black Griffin isn't a groomer. I don't know. Certainly some of his interactions are pretty fucking weird, particularly the DeviantArt posts. But when we look through allegations like this, you need to have some kind of smoking gun. I showed you screenshots earlier of Grizzly the medic. In that instance, you have Grizzly, a security guard at BronyCon who tried to get a 12-year-old to come up to their hotel room, in DMs, acknowledging someone's age and continuing to have explicit conversations with them in their DMs. While Gabe is weird, very, very weird, this has apparently been going on for a decade and no one has a smoking gun. And to be clear, this isn't just internet stuff. Projects that Black Griffin and his wife have worked on are targeted. There is a massive public campaign to have this guy removed from any project that associates with him, all of which is based on the schizophrenic ramblings of Fandon't. Now originally, this section was much longer and way more pissed off. I actually included Anthony Grimoglia giving a defense of Lazy Bedhead just to provide some kind of balance, but I have since
How
spoken
dare you, Beckett? How dare you make me listen to AG against my will? I will never forgive you for this.
to her at length both about the Saber Spark allegations and the wider story involving Black Griffin. And as much of this section was directed pointedly towards her, that feels a little bit redundant at this point. However, just because I've spoken to Lazy doesn't mean I don't have massive criticisms for this video, so I just want to run over them in a slightly calmer, more chilled out tone. One of my major issues, in fact probably my main issue with this story, is the fact that nobody really vetted or checked anybody before running things. For example, Courtney Pete and by extension Lazy Bedhead use Sophie Scruggs as an expert on this community, but Scruggs is not a passive observer. We'll get to her section later, but all you need to know for the moment is that Brony Fandon't is not just one person. Sophie Scruggs has access to that account and has regularly posted from it. The reason this is all missed is because the information Lazy Bedhead has on Brony Fandon't largely comes from the Gabe defense documents. While Lazy Bedhead, to her credit, does condemn this information because Fandon't is a complete freak, she does post this updated pinned comment, stating that Fandon't has largely moved on from these opinions they held when they were a minor. Lazy would explain to me that she posted and pinned this comment due to the fact she was getting pushback from Fandon't defenders, and she largely just wanted them to shut the fuck up. But to be clear, Fandon't has continued to defend his consumption of pornography depicting underage furry characters. In March of this year, Fandon't would post an incredibly long schizo thread about their history with the community, at the end of which he includes these comments. If no one is hurt, then it isn't an issue. I can't hurt Noelle, and it doesn't represent me, or how I am with minors. If anything, it stems from my own situation when I was a minor. Psychology is complicated. I know what's in my brain. I know I have no attraction to children or animals. Noelle is neither to me in my head. An issue here is simply that
Permanently talking about himself on the timeline. Permanently talking about himself on the timeline. Put him in the house. Put him in the house. Put him in the house.
Lazy doesn't use Twitter, and therefore never caught this. This lack of vetting isn't just me bitching about standards, it has quite serious implications for these wider stories. Fandon't, whether you like it or not, is at the center of these allegations. His documents are the main sources of them, and when it comes to Saberspark, he has been pushing to find something on Saberspark, once again, for years. If the allegations against Black Griffin are true, Fandon't's involvement is a major disservice to any victims involved. Because now, all that's really required to deflect these allegations is to point to the crazy motherfucker who's been the driving force behind them. Some people might say that this position is dismissive, but you have to keep in mind, in a story like this, where there is no evidence for anything, your currency is credibility.
I feel so seen. Thank you, Beckett. I am not a crazy black man ranting at the wall. I know what I'm talking about.
The vast bulk of the evidence, quote-unquote, against these people is bollocks. It simply doesn't hold up to any reasonable level of scrutiny. All of this is made worse by the fact that you're not asking me or anybody else to trust the victims. You're asking us to trust people like Courtney Pete, KP, Brony Fandon't, and Sophie Scruggs, all of whom exist on a spectrum somewhere between incredibly fucking stupid and deeply malicious. In the conclusion of her video, Lazy Bedhead says that she doesn't actually like making videos like this, part of the reason being that creators are waiting for the next big expose for views and clicks and likes. And despite everything, I do kind of believe her. I don't view Lazy as actually malicious, and part of the reason for that is Anthony, because as he points out the nuances, I realized what really annoyed me about this video is the fact that she takes the Destiny allegations and the allegations from another unnamed 13-year-old claiming that Gabe also offered to send her a dick pic, again with no evidence for this, and treats them as gospel. She says that this is evidence that Gabe is a groomer, this shows us who he is. I don't think she'd be dumb enough to do that unless she genuinely believed that to be the case. So for all my criticisms of this video, again, I don't think she's just maliciously going after these people. However, that question of malice is a very interesting one. And while many people, I think fairly, believe that KP's primary motivation comes from her petty grudges that she's been clinging onto for over a decade, this feels like a nice segue onto the other group of people, who seem to have realized that KP is so blinded by her own insane biases that she presented the perfect vector to litigate their own petty grievances. Let's talk about this elusive Amy New. When I first introduced her to you, I said she was just somebody's wife, and while that sounds flippant, it's actually a very good description, because Amy's claim to fame is being married to Peter New, the voice of Big Macintosh. For those of you who have no idea who or what that is, I deeply envy you, but he's basically a main secondary character from MLP. So if you're wondering why Amy scuttled away so quickly, it's probably because being involved in leveling unsubstantiated rape allegations against somebody might not be the best look publicly. But Amy has known and been involved with this group of people for over a decade. And while I'm not quite clear on the mechanics of how this worked, she was certainly one of the people handing over Emily to KP for this expose. Now, I didn't reach out to Amy personally, but Angry Slug did, and I was quite interested in what she had to say, so I asked Slug for a copy of those DMs. Now, there's nothing in here that's particularly interesting, but it does confirm her involvement, and the fact that she is very much trying to push the blame onto KP. And from the DMs with Fandon't, it seems very clear that they were also very much in contact. You'll
need this. Pew! Howdy, I wanted to reach out in terms of recent allegations made about Saberspark. I'm going to be covering these allegations, recent controversies, not on stream, and I wanted to know if you would be available for an interview, because I love Kim Possible a lot, and let me know that you would know a lot more about what's going on. I don't really want to be involved in anything she has to do with, and she's pretty pissed, and I'm pretty pissed. She didn't ask me if she could get my name out. No, sorry. I came to her in confidence. Please don't tell anyone. I didn't even want to speak out. I didn't even want to speak out how I did, but I felt forced to because of bad things that were handled. Because of who, no, that must be how. Because of how bad things were handled. Please, I just don't want to get dogpiled on. Completely understandable. However, if you feel comfortable at any point, you're welcome to come on and give your side. No gotchas, no sneaky tactics. Sorry, I didn't mean to be snappy. I just feel horrible. My friend is so scared and people think she isn't real. I just wanted to at least try to prove that she's real. I understand. I really don't like attention. So it's crazy. Once again, Carl being proven right about people who have a fear being perceived. Oh, I'm right. Oh. But she's more scared than me, so I wanted to be some kind of barrier. Thank you for understanding. Thank you. That's fair, and if it makes you comfortable, I am a journalist who specializes in situations of this kind, and I'm willing to at least help understand what's going on, provide some advice, not legal or social media, but more on how to deal with people online if need be. And it's not a problem. You guys can feel free to reach out on Discord at SlugYT. It can be offline or online. I won't penalize anything unless permission is given to do so. Thanks, I appreciate that. I'll reach out if I feel something comes up. I just really feel so bad about it all. Heart emoji.
We'll also see later that Amy and Sophie Scruggs seem to have a pretty good relationship, so the idea that she was just a passive bystander concerned for her friend is absurd. As a final late addition, right before publication, I was made aware of one other bit of correspondence with Amy, because Mr. Enter would also reach out to Amy, and she'd give the statement that she found out about this on the 25th of March, which would mean, timeline-wise, Amy was told about this, immediately gave the information to Fandom, who immediately passed it on to KP. Now this is all a little bit weird for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Amy would come out in support of the statement from Emmy on Twitter, saying that they've been friends for over a decade, and that she was at Canterlot Gardens, confirming that she had seen Emmy and Saber Spark together. The statement of, I have nothing to gain from this, I just want my friend to be believed, is also complete insanity considering Amy's wider involvement in this. Once again, to say nothing of the validity of Emily's accusations, Amy presents herself like she's not involved and knew nothing about this before publication. Or, alternatively, this could also be read as though it was a rumor that had been going around for years that was finally being outed. And I'm sure some version of the truth exists within all this obfuscation, but these people are just so fucking manipulative. One thing about this story which I find pretty amusing, though overall quite frustrating, is that the side that's so concerned about transparency have all refused to speak to anyone the minute things got difficult for them. Now this presents a bit of a problem. I don't know people like Amy. All I've got to go on is fragments of information. But to be clear, just because they won't speak to me doesn't mean nobody did. And thanks to the excellent work of Opblock, after his
What a glaze. Good job, Foggy. What a glaze. I bet he was excited about that the night of premiere.
Oh, I bet.
response video, I was put in touch with Saber Spark. Now that conversation I had with Saber Spark is unfortunately off the record. He doesn't feel comfortable at the moment coming out and making random public statements, and I'll be honest, I do respect that decision. However, I still need to know about these people, and from the other side, I accept the criticism of it would be nice to hear from people. So please, allow me to solve that problem for you, because I sat down to have a conversation with the voice actress of Sweetie Belle from My Little Pony, the wife of Black Griffin, Claire. Let's go in levels. Can we start with Amy New?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell me about Amy New and why why the wife of the voice actor for Big Macintosh is somehow involved in attacking your sort of, I guess, circle?
All right. I will tell you all the things that I know about her. I know. I'm like, I don't know. I'm hesitant to say things, but at the same time, I feel like I've been so polite and nice for so long that I think I don't feel like being polite and nice anymore. So there's my grain of salt before I say what I'm going to say. I don't know where the switch was with Amy. I don't know if my own father has talked to either of them, but I do know that my dad has reached out to people that I've worked with and warned them about me when I had told my parents that, you know, I was in a relationship with Gabe.
Pause. What a weird web we've gotten into. Yes, that mystery enter. Yes, the mysterious mystery enter. What a weird timeline we're in. Oh, wee.
Oh, wow. And this is when I was almost 20. I don't know when the swap or switch was for Amy. I had met her a few times before. I knew she was married to Peter New. I think I can't remember a whole lot about her, but I don't know. She's like kind of mixed up in the fan world, and she came first as a fan. To my knowledge, she was a fan first, and then she just kind of started dating Peter, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And she, yeah, was kind of like a fan of My Little Pony and a fan of Peter, and then started dating. And I was like, oh, okay. And, you know, I didn't really think much of it at the time. I didn't really care. As an adult looking back on that situation, oh, I also know that I'm pretty sure that Amy has, like, publicly stated before at some point that she was just, like, really concerned for me because she had kind of alluded to, I was a grooming victim and I didn't know, and I was smart and I was, you know, in love and I knew what that was like, and I just feel really bad for her. And I'm like, why do people freaking keep saying this about me? Like, I'm some idiot that, and this is the thing too, like, even if I get frustrated about it, people are like, oh, I understand that you're so angry. Like, you're a very, like, you know, it doesn't mean that you're stupid. You can be a smart person and get in a situation like that. I'm like, yeah, and I freaking know what that's like because that was my family situation. And I hate it when people say that to me as if I don't know what that's like. And one day I'll figure it out. One day I'll figure out that I've been groomed. And
It sounds like a grown-ass woman doesn't like the fact that people spoke to her as though she's a fucking retard that doesn't know how to handle emotional situations. Damn.
God dang.
That's so crazy. I think I wonder. Hey, Rachel, would you like to tell this grown woman how she should feel about how she was catching dick? No? Okay.
Sitting here like,
I just had to ask, you know, since it's such a concern to I Love Kim Possible a lot.
Nobody knows that I've basically already been through this. You know, people talk about grooming in this non-sexual way, which is so funny because I'm like, why the frick would I be groomed non-sexually into a marriage? What's the marriage for? Shaking hands? Like, what the hell? It just doesn't make any sense. But I hesitate to use the word groomed just because I hate it so much at this point.
I'm sorry. That caught me. Now that I have you here in this bedroom all alone, I want you to shake my hand. Oh my god. Oh, that's so soft. I like it.
You're so fucking gay, man.
I'm a goober, deal with it.
Gay.
Deal with it.
But I have had a lot of conditioning.
See, you should be more concerned with the fact that this means that men can find women funny.
That's kind of concerning.
I thought you'd be happy about this. This should be revelations for all of womankind. Big heckin' chuggas women. You can now be able to stop pretending that you're funny, pretending and acting like you like Smosh. By just being yourselves. Crashing out is always valid. It's always valid.
Other things in my life that once I became 18 and realized and gave myself some authority in my own life, oh, I'm not going to do this just because this person says so. Just because this person is in my family and is telling me blah, 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 doesn't mean that I have to do that anymore. And so, anyway, to make a long story short, there are... I think it's really funny that Amy is somebody who is saying this kind of stuff. She wouldn't know. Started off very, I feel bad for her vibes, and then immediately went to, I'm blocking you, you're a danger, you know, and I'm paraphrasing here, but that is the vibe that is being directed towards me now. And I think that's also really funny, considering Peter New is somebody who has said inappropriate things about girls who are underage, and that is just laughable to me. And I feel like every single person who is the most like loudly outspoken people about this situation are people who've got their own weird freaking skeletons. And I just sit here and I'm like, surely people can't believe this. Surely people have a brain, but apparently not, because now we're in the situation that we're in now, and it boggles my mind, and it just makes me roll my eyes, quite frankly.
Talking with Claire was pretty illuminating. I can almost understand why no one's been interested in hearing her side in all this. Because it must be pretty bloody difficult to run a story about somebody being a groomer when their primary victim, quote-unquote, won't go along with your narrative. But when you start picking apart the eccentricities of these relationships, it becomes a hell of a lot harder to treat the people leveling these accusations as just passive observers concerned for victims. No wonder so many people want to remain anonymous. They're not just random people from the internet, they're people with large public profiles in the community. I was astonished to find that people had either outright ignored Claire's public statements on the situation or actively attacked her as somehow complicit. This is also the case for Michelle, who played Apple Bloom on the show, whose long-term friendship with Gabe is the origin point of these rumors. And once again, because I can hear that scratching, I don't know the truth behind the Black Griffin allegations, and neither do you. But when I said earlier that many people do not care about victims in this story, This is what I mean, because hypothetically, let's say this mob is correct about Black Griffin. That would mean his 2 primary victims, quote-unquote, have been relentlessly attacked alongside him, and the reason for this is obvious. The people leveling these accusations don't care about victims. Their motivations are entirely self-interested. Which brings us rather nicely to Sophie Scruggs, because as I mentioned before, Brony fandom isn't a one-man band. The other half of this little duo has seemingly been pushing these allegations longer than Bonk has. And in her case, it's almost more bizarre because she's not a random member of this community. She was an official artist for—
God damn it, every single time they never beat the physiognomy experiment! She looks like she got stung by a bee. But it's her entire face that's recovering.
She ugly. Good God.
For the My Little Pony comics.
My name is Sophie Scruggs. That's SOPHIEASCRUGGS. If you want to look me up on Twitter, Sophie A. Scruggs.
She's even got the aggressive voice. God damn, Jesus Christ. Elohim, could you have not gone easier with the Nerf bat? Why'd you make her so fucked up, man?
I do know that she kind of spearheaded a lot of the allegations towards Gabe, and worked with, Brony fandom, whatever, to kind of, create this wall of saying, like, where the
I'm something shaped. I'm something shaped. She was 21 when they were engaged. This is so dumb. I agree, just a girl.
The ones holding, this together, this case, and trying to bring the information to the light, and, she's trying to say, like, we need to do this. It's like a crusade. I mean, it's even in her banner or her title for her Twitter, like, I believe destiny. She's very much involved, even though she likes to have this idea that she's like, I'm not involved,
My opinion, me speaking on that, is I think it's pretty messed up of Sophie to let a mentally ill person take the fall for her crusade.
Sophie has been obsessed with the Black Griffin story for so long, it is actually difficult to find an origin point of how this all began, but I have heard a couple of theories. The first is some nondescript traumatic event.
They also straight up use Sophie's trauma and mental illness to discredit them. Sophie seems to be suffering a lot from her own trauma, which must be incredibly tough to deal with, but she often spreads misinformation, even if unintentional.
And far from how this is being painted by Lazy, this is Sophie's own explanation for her behavior. However, if it helps, I actually don't believe this is true. I think the explanation is far more simple. Sophie was massively jealous of Gabe. And again, that seems to be shockingly common. Black Griffin moved from being a fan of the show to working on it. And this crops up again and again.
A former con chair told me that the reason why Gabe was always at stuff as a special guest is if you wanted to invite for Apple Bloom, Monique would basically require to also invite Gabe. They would quote-unquote throw him in for free.
See what I mean? Like, the mother keeps pushing the two of them together. Why?
Yeah, and so it basically, like, they would, in order to have her, for example, if you wanted all of the Cutie Mark Crusaders, you have to have Gabe, basically. And that's kind of how he ingratiated himself into the guest of honor spot, even though he didn't really do a whole lot to earn a guest of honor spot. He did some background vocals on a few episodes, and that's it.
And to clarify too, so how it worked in the pony convention scene, I guess if you want to call it, is there the guests of honor who were specifically show staff, so like, voice actors, directors, et cetera, and then there'd be people like me and Sophie and people that were just active in the fandom space that were called community guests, and Gabe was usually the only exception to that for whatever reason, and that was the reason.
Clips like this are mind-bending. You literally start the conversation by explaining how he moved to doing background vocals on the show, therefore meeting the criteria of guest of honor, and then lament that he didn't really earn it. And these—
That's just jealousy. That's just pure fucking green-eyed monster, bro. There's nothing to do about that. That's just, again, woman. Not my women in my audience, but women. They're just jealous. That's all it is. It's jealousy. It's jealousy, animosity, and hatred. Animus! That's the word I was looking for. It's pure animus. It's such an intense hatred. They don't have another way to express it other than in the way that they currently are here. Because if they tell somebody how they feel, they're going to be judged for this. And no one's going to back it. Because who the fuck wants to help somebody who's envious of somebody help destroy their life and career? But if you're a victim, if you're a victim, now it's good. It's really good.
These fucking people are still bitching about this in current day. When MomoCon heard about KP making the DA Games video, they removed her from the guest list. KP would then cry about this to Bonk, asking him whether he could get people to vouch for her so she could get back in. And isn't it interesting that all these stories are unattributable to random former con chairs? It's all, somebody told me, or I heard this once. But realistically, that's all it ever can be, because people like Sophie and KP weren't really on the inside of any of these groups. KP basically survived off the kindness of Henry's now wife Casey, and while Sophie was, seemingly, an official comic artist, that's much less impressive than it sounds. Sophie was basically treated like any other vendor at any of these conventions. And that seething resentment for that core circle that actually had some relevance to this community means that Sophie's interest was not just Black Griffin. She was fully aware of the allegations against Saber Spark and what was going on behind the scenes. KP presented me a TSV file for their conversations. This is also the format KP used to provide me her conversations with Casey, and Casey has at least confirmed those logs are accurate. However, I note this here because whenever you're presented with something that could have been edited before it reached you, you should accept that possibility. Before we move on from Sophie, I want to just highlight one section in Lazy's video.
But also claiming that they associate with people who defend drawn child sexual abuse material?
Because that accusation of association is not random, and I want you to keep in mind the name Wootmaster for when we get to Fandon't. But before that, I mean, I think that moves us on to sort of Sophie Scruggs and Fandon't. But why don't we start with Scruggs, because I'm baffled at their involvement, frankly. I don't really understand it.
Okay, so here's all that I know about Sophie and my history with her. I just, these people, I don't understand. It's like this weird parasocial behavior that has rapidly moved. It's like it's dancing on the borderline of obsession, because the moment somebody is like knows a bunch of stuff about you, looks up to you, and I'm not saying that to be arrogant. I'm saying that because I've witnessed this firsthand when people treat you differently because you're a voice actor on a show that literally outside of the hotel the convention is held at, nobody gives a rat's anus about. And it is so weird to me that, and I'm using this as a specific example, and I actually had to go back and research this because I had forgot about it because it meant nothing to me. Sorry, Sophie, I'm not trying to be rude here, but I don't remember that I complimented your snail once. That was something that I did in the moment because I was being friendly and nice, and now somehow I'm getting backstabbed because you decided to tweet out to everybody years ago, the last time you got frustrated that I was in a relationship with Gabe, before we were married and we had announced that we were dating, you said you were worried for your dear friend, your close friend, Claire, me. And I'm sitting here going, who the hell are you? Have I even met you before? Like, what the frick? Then I have to go back and I find out, oh, thank God, I actually did meet her. Okay, so she's not, totally crazy. But then I keep reading this stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally it. I complimented your snail one time, and I think I might have DM'd you about a bag that I saw at a convention, and you were at the convention, and and I walked through the vendor hall, and I was like, oh, you have really pretty bags, because one of them had my character on it, and I was like, that's so cool. I think I might have taken a picture of it. And then I was like, hey, like, how do you sell your bags? I think I DM'd her of like, hey, how do you sell your bags? Like, I might have wanted to retweet that or promote that at some point, right? And I find out that this person is, first of all, has also been kind of a Gabe hater for a while. Like, prior to me being involved in the situation, had one person tell her one thing that was complete hearsay, because this went around at conventions a lot. People were really, I think, pissed that Gabe, had found success, quite honestly. I think that's what it was. And there was this bubbling, underlying level of jealousy, basically, that had kind of started surfacing the more popular that Gabe had got within the fandom. And I think now, because, and Saberspark is another one of those people who are ending up finding success further than outside of the pony fandom, which nobody should freaking care about anymore, by the way. It's over. They're finding success. They're moving on in their lives. They're figuring out what they want to do with their careers. How am I going to pivot? How am I going to, create content? What is it going to look like now? And as they do that and they find success, these freaking bronies, and I hate to use that as an umbrella term because I know that there are plenty of bronies who are out there that are very cool and very sweet, very nerdy, nice people who just, want to have a community and want to make friends. But there's also, like, very clearly, and I don't think this was always there, by the way. I think that it developed over the years, this, like, weird, like, sexual part of the fandom. But before that, it was just, like, it was memes and, like, oh, we shouldn't be watching this show because it's, like, for little girls. Haha, that's kind of funny. And that's how a lot of these people fell into it. That's how Aber fell into it. That's how Gabe fell into it. That's how Jeff fell into it. Like, all these people, that's how it started. And then they got a little bit popular because they had, content that they were making that people really liked. And then they moved on. And people are somehow so freaking pissed. And Sophie being one of these people who keeps saying things, by the way, make up your freaking mind, Sophie. Is Gabriel successful outside of the pony fandom, or has he reached his peak already? Because you've said both, and you can't just pick and choose when you want to use that as a punching bag for some, I don't know, the end of some point you're trying to make. It doesn't make any sense. He's either successful or he's a has-been. Which one is it? Come back to me and freaking figure it out. But anyway, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to compliment people on their snails anymore for fear that 7 years down the road, when I become an adult, that they're going to attack me after I've stood up for myself and said, hey, what you're saying is not true about me. And by the way, I'm not a close friend of yours. I don't know who you are.
About an hour.
It's like I possessed her, Chad. It's like I possessed her! Again, vindication. I feel great. Wonderful. I love that she's went on that entire tirade, because that's exactly what I said fucking earlier. Parasocial relationships, bro. Never do them. Never do them. Just be mean, be rude, be at a distance, be aloof. Then you never get in trouble. Never make the mistake of trying to be nice. You will be accused of crimes. You'll never live it down.
Hour and a half ago, I said to you that I didn't want to originally look at this story because I was aware of its connection to the wider Black Griffin allegations. And over the past week or so of looking at this, I realized that I was wrong. This isn't just connected to the Black Griffin allegations. This is the Black Griffin allegations. It's just the next iteration of it. Because the people going after Saberspark right now are doing so purely because he is friends with Black Griffin. And their motivation isn't whether Saberspark is innocent or guilty. Their motivation is finding anything they can to stab into any member of this group in their endless crusade against them.
If I'm not mistaken, she did come to you, right?
Brony Fandot was aware of her because Amy had told her about him, or told, him about her.
I'm saying that, like, that person came to you, though. You didn't seek them out. It was the other way around.
Yeah, she used Amy, yeah.
Okay, so that tells me she was aware enough to know about your biases at Saberspark and just wanted to utilize that.
Brony Fandot is an absolute freak, and I imagine that is painfully obvious to anyone with even a passing knowledge of this drama, but don't worry, the well runs deep with this one. Their history in this community is pretty bizarre. They actually started off running a roleplay account of all things. Earlier on, I mentioned their schizophrenic thread from
just as you do. You just start off making a throwaway Twitter roleplay account on the internet where you just post pictures of your character. But unlike it being characters like fucking Lady from Devil May Cry, something that I've witnessed where those types of people who run that account, the moment that you speak to them, they will just block every person involved, even other people in their own sphere of this particular niche pastime. I'm saying this as a passive observer, not somebody who was involved. Don't fucking at me. There is a world where I feel like there's so much lost culture involving the amount of people that they're just permanently online like this. This is just normal for them. We're looking at people for this. This is their Tuesday afternoon. Me, I play video games. Or she watches content on the internet and possibly drives me up a wall. Y'all watch me. They go on the internet and they somehow find themselves on page 15 of a 1,500 word document about their involvement in a deeper community.
Arch, and good lord does this contain some weird lore about them. Allow me to save you some time reading it and just provide you a simple TLDR. Fandot is a narcissistic lunatic whose greatest achievement in life is role-playing as the character Discord, something that essentially occurred accidentally through a meme account connected to their main character. Now, Fandot would describe this as accidentally laying the groundwork to be the most powerful character ever, describing this as a trial by fire, because with great power comes great responsibility. After all, guys, they were still barely a team. They keep talking about how they were getting bigger and bigger roles, how shocking it was that they had fans they'd meet at conventions. I'm gonna stop here because this is fantasy. I have yet to run into anybody, and yes, I have tried, who was even aware of this person before they started going after Black Griffin. Brony Fandot existed in a very, very niche part of this community. And sure, I get it, if you're a massive loser and you've got a few hundred people paying attention to your weird meme Twitter account, that might mean something to you. But this was Fandot's life. He had nothing else, and then suddenly, the lockdown started to happen. For it was not apathy that killed the bronies, it was a global pandemic. Obviously, the vast majority of the fanbase had already moved on from the show, but cons were still happening, and these seem to be the only interactions Fandot had with people in the real world. This is obviously just a theory for me, but timeline-wise, I really do think that this is the point where Fandot went from a bit weird to completely fucking insane. I sound like I'm being mean, but this is actually the only defense for Fandot. And it also might answer the question of why he was utilized at all. Because right now, we can see Sophie and Amy lying through their fucking teeth about how neither of them thought this was a good idea, and Emily was just a bit too erratic. Ladies, your names are all over this. My advice to you would be to shut the fuck up. Yet, I get it. Fandot in this story is by far the worst actor. So when throwing KP to the wolves wasn't quite enough, I guess he has to go as well. Though, as always, I am just happy to help. So let's start with the friend of all three of these people, Whoopmaster. Whoopmaster, also known as Ezekiel the Zebra, is an artist with a long history of controversy. They actually have some history with Senate, but our focus here is their pornographic material.
Pause. Let's go back and read that title. 32 anti-fascist black artist and musician, he/him. Perfect exemplification of exactly the people I'm talking about, man. We cannot escape these furries, chat. We are stuck here. We are just all in their orbit. Where they clop, we are running in fear of being caught in the backsplash. Truly, we are only living in their world.
Bruh is an artist with a long history of controversy. They actually have some history with Senate, but our focus here is their pornographic material, because Whoopmaster shares similar interest to Brony Fandot. Obviously, I don't want to flashbang you with this stuff. I'm not a complete fucking amateur. Fortunately, I don't have to though, because if you want to know what sort of person Woot is, their other major controversy involves their partner, who was a pedophile personally banned by Elon Musk. Woot's history is shockingly well known, and Fandom is constantly bringing them up, even in the DMs with KP. The reason I raise this is A, to show you what sort of person Fandom is, but secondly because it is no coincidence that Fandom is so keen to go after Saberspark, because Saber has fought with Woot publicly on Twitter. I'm honestly not sure quite how to square the circle between somebody who spends their entire life at the moment trying to out somebody as a groomer, while also simultaneously defending their friend who either was or is dating a pedophile, all under a backdrop of this bizarre pornography. And it is interesting, right, that Brony Fandom seems to start going after Claire, the voice actress for Sweetie Belle, the minute she gets into a relationship. It's almost as if this adult woman publicly dating somebody else ruined Fandom's fantasies. And no, I'm not going to show it to you, but Wootmaster did at one point seemingly either draw or retweet pornographic images of Sweetie Belle. Fandom's crusade against Gabe has been long-running, but most interestingly about it is how he has treated Claire, because she went from his primary concern to his mortal enemy, even going so far as to deny any abuse she may have suffered from her father. For those not in the know, Claire has been very vocal about having a troubled home life, much of which seems to be dismissed by people who were a fan of her father, as he is the Canadian voice actor for Goku. When all this stuff with Fandom started, Claire just thought,
what a weird circle.
It was a dad, because he has a history of making fake accounts to basically stalk her and her now husband. There's
This is where
evidence of
shit
him
gets
admitting this
really
in a
fucking
recording. How many
insane.
people haven't heard this? It's part of one of the Gabe defense documents and a little bit difficult to access. So, with permission, I'm just going to play it for you.
Something I would like to say, if you want to talk about Twitter and lying, do you have something to say for yourself, Janice?
Absolutely, yeah. I formed a Twitter handle that, because I didn't think it was appropriate for your to go, what a crock of shit that is, Gabe.
In case that hurts your career, if you do it on your Twitter account?
Oh, no, just because it's kind of human, that's all. And I can...
Nigga, what? You're stalking your daughter! On Twitter.com!
Mm-hmm.
Somebody go back in time and clip that for me. That's gonna become a voice. That's gonna be a voice meme, okay? That's going into the alerts next week.
Completely
So
admit
cyberbullying
I
is human.
completely admit to it.
Really? But you never told me.
Why would I tell you?
You blocked me on Twitter.
Big deal.
So you didn't want to see me, but you'll tell me.
I'm telling you right now. I'm not.
Why did you block me on Twitter?
I'm not. What do you mean block?
Janice blocked on Twitter.
Fine. Do you want? I can unblock you. And you know what? Now that it's all in the open, I'll really do it. Because I think.
Did you know about this?
I think that people. No, knows nothing about this. I think that people that need to be called out when they're full of it. And frankly, there's a huge component of his followers that go, "What the hell are you tweeting for at 3 a.m. for?"
That is very common for him, so I don't know what you're doing. Well aware of
It's not like he's on tour in in REO Speedwagon and they're playing gigs till 2 a.m. He's doing nothing.
You are trying.
I'm sorry, I need to step outside myself. I didn't just hear a father voice actor say that to his daughter voice actress. No. I'm having an hallucinatory moment. I know that a grown working man in the fucking industry did not just say to his working industry daughter, "Why is your husband out there texting and DMing people? He don't need to be doing damn thing. He doesn't do actual work. He doesn't play gigs till 2 a.m. The nigga just sits in a chair and does nothing." Did you give her away at her wedding? Did you see what he afforded and paid for if you didn't fund that wedding yourself, or what she was able to afford? Anything you're saying about him, you're effectively saying to the face of your daughter. So you just said that your daughter don't do shit, ain't never gonna be shit. I want to
Keep in mind, her parents were the ones that pushed introducing them.
I want to punch this man in the mouth.
Goku's an insane motherfucker, apparently.
This is not Goku! This is Kakarot!
He's a Goku voice. Her dad's a Goku voice actor.
No,
for the
I know what you're saying.
version.
I know what you're saying. This is not Goku. This is Kakarot. Gohan, why are you tweeting at 2 a.m.? Dad, I'm just doing my job. You don't do anything. You don't go out on the streets. You're not a leader like me and Vegeta. Let me fight you right now. Dad, you can't stop me at Twitter.com. Goku, you're being unreasonable. Get back in the kitchen, Chi-Chi. I'm hurting on the inside. Ah! My faith in dangerous breaking, Jet! And so am I! Oh my god, this is too funny.
Trying to sabotage him and his career and everything about him, and that is the way you're going about it. Instead of talking and you're swooving your freaking way around every other possibility that could get you.
And his extra Twitter account said,
Which you denied.
I did not deny it.
Yeah, Gabe sent you a DM and said, quit it. I know what this is about. And
Yeah.
you were like, oh, just another hater.
That's not denying anything. I am a hater.
Measly little liar, dude.
Oh my god! It's just sitting here like, no, I am a hater. Fuck you mean, little nigga? Freeze
Why do
force.
you have to get another account to do that? Why?
It's
Riddle me that, Batman.
Who should her husband be? Dan Chehan? I don't know. It's just like Namek Song Goku. I know that's not you, Goku. I know it's you, Captain Ginyu. They're trying to get it to me. I'm a follow ass hater. Ginyu Force of life, bitch. Oh my god. That hurts.
First of all, quarantine in your fucking room. Bye.
I have one more thing.
What do you have now?
Why is it
Where's all this bullshit? Oh, I'm gonna go into family therapy like this.
You said family therapy.
What
Bullshit. You liar.
Fucking liar. Scott, I know you're gonna try to equate me. Fuck off.
Whatever you think.
So, in isolation, you chose to keep the shit up. So you're feuding with your own daughter in your house as you're trying to quarantine from each other to not get sick from COVID. What the fuck is this family drama?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
And all over what, chat? My Little Pony.
My little absentee stalker daddy stalking me and my husband. Stalking on Twitter. Shit posting at him constantly stalking on Twitter. If I don't laugh and cry, I will cry and yell. I don't know which one is worse. Where's my nori? I need seaweed. I need weed, actually. I need weed. I can't get the normal kind, so I'm gonna have the edible kind. Doesn't actually have CBD in it, though.
About the Black Griffin allegations, people are just denying this happened to her because it doesn't fit with their narrative. And if you're somebody who claims to care about victims, this seems like a pretty callous and uncaring thing to do. And it has served to silence these people, because why would they speak out? In fact, Black Griffin offered to speak to me, and I realized that was a pointless endeavor and a waste of my time and his, because whatever he said, none of his detractors will believe him. A significant portion of the conversations I've had with Michelle and Claire are in reference to these allegations, but on reviewing it, I realized putting it in may be completely pointless. What I will say is both of them have spoken plainly and openly to me about these accusations. That being said, I do think there is one particular use for these conversations, because one thing they serve to highlight is the insane level of A-logging these people have been subjected to over the years. We're talking anything public about these people. It's been trawled through and picked apart by this lunatic to find anything damaging, and I want to show you that through the perspective of Michelle.
With Gabe and Claire, the irony is we've calculated now that Gabe and Claire met outside of conventions roughly 6 to 7 times. And we've gone through all of our photos, all of our videos, like collectively to calculate accurately how many times it would have been when she was a minor outside of like conventions, and it still would have usually, like, that's including like video shoots. It just happens to be that literally 5 out of 7 of those times were filmed. So to these people it looks like so much. It was like those were literally the only times they interacted, and then maybe the other 2 times were my 2 birthdays. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so, the irony is crazy. It's like those were literally the only times they saw each other. Oh, and one other time we saw like Book of Mormon, and I don't think we filmed any videos there, but we like posted a picture. So it's literally all these times they're finding, those are the only examples. Like, there's no more exist essentially.
I don't understand how it's the people who are taking this way too seriously that get so wrapped up in this, and they're like, look at here, they're by themselves, and I'm like, no, we're not. We're with another person. They're right freaking there, and they just take screenshots of, which I think is so funny, the fact that they're like screenshots from videos that I made. And someone's like, please send this to Claire. We can still get her out. There's still time. I'm like, why is your goal that you want me to get divorced? Or is it a step further? Do you want me to freaking marry you? Because that's creepy. You know why? Because unlike Gabriel, you guys have been obsessed with me since I was 13. So maybe think about that the next time you look at yourself in the freaking mirror. Jeez.
I love her. I love her.
She's like one of the few redeeming qualities of the female race next to yourself.
I love her. Fucking annihilate them.
So many hearts, so many broken wink shots that now dedicated themselves to hatred because their favorite wife who told you, nigga, get on in your life.
But is they wrong?
No, of course not.
One of the things that people, you know, claim is an inaccuracy that counters reality of how many times, you know, Gabe and Claire spent together and how close friends they were was Gabe saying we weren't friends. I know Gabe's definition of friends. I know he would not have considered Claire a friend because he would consider somebody a friend that he had, you know, contact with, phone number. He only had Claire's phone number, I don't know, some point like 2017-ish because one of her parents gave him, or no, one of her parents gave Claire Gabe's number, and that actually made Gabe really uncomfortable. And I was there when he first received a text from her, and he was like, oh God, why did they give Claire my number? I don't want her to have my number. There were other people in the room too, so I'm not even the only witness to that. But they, again, we've calculated it specifically, they only spent 6 to 7 times approximately together outside of conventions, and I think, yeah, 5 or so of those times were filmed, and there was only one instance during our entire childhood minority period where Gabe and Claire and I, just the 3 of us, were alone. And it's that one video of us going out into the woods. And I deleted it because I felt showing the dead raccoons was inappropriate. I deleted it like 8 years ago because I just thought it was kind of a gross video. It's literally the only instance. And these people somehow like went, I don't even know how they found it. And they thought I deleted it because the comments were inappropriate. It was literally like a super popular video. I deleted it because I just thought it was gross. And I've deleted, like, I don't know, I unlisted a bunch of videos a long time ago because I was just like, I don't know, we're just kind of like being immature. Like, I didn't like showing a pile of 5 dead raccoons on my channel. That just wasn't professional. I was focusing on my music. So I unlisted a bunch of those.
She succeeded at the Paul brothers question. She did not commit a suicide forest, even when there was no pressure. She would win at the trolley problem.
Videos I just thought weren't really, I wouldn't want people to like go back and see now just for my own sake. Not because not because the comments were like inappropriate of, oh, you know, Gabe's taking 2 young girls out in the woods. We were there for probably an hour and it's 5 minutes away from my house. And both of our sets of parents would have approved it. And literally every other time Claire and Gabe would have ever seen each other when Claire was a minor, parents and many other adults would have been around. Every single time. That's the one video, and they used that one single video that I even deleted and they somehow found, I don't know how, as proof that they spent time alone. It's completely untrue. Completely untrue.
Now, to some of you, this might feel like new information, or flies in the face of what you've been told previously, but there's 2 things I'd like you to keep in mind. Firstly, that the people who are going after this group are really dumb. One of the questions that I had, actually,
of course they are.
Is,
they always are.
There's so much focus on Claire being married to Gabe, but these sort of, I don't know, rumors or the way people thought about the relationship started with you. So it's very interesting that they've focused in on Claire. People, they seem to be going, well, we know this person, we care about this person, we want to save this person. And you, who were also involved, kind of get sidelined. And the fact that you don't really know them or have any interactions with them is almost a bit telling that...
Oh, they're basically, they're strangers. Essentially, they're strangers. Yeah. I know nothing about them, they know nothing about us, you know. Maybe Claire's interacted with the specific people a couple more times than me, it sounds. She has more specific memories, but yeah, no, I mean, it is interesting too, like how many examples and stuff that people have sent me, like screenshots where like they mix us up too. Like it'll be some picture like 10 years ago, or like they think it's Gabe, but it's actually like me with my short hair and Claire, like just silly stuff like that. Like they can't even tell us apart. It's hysterical.
And secondly, until we reached out, no one has tried interviewing these 2 women. And what makes that particularly insane is not the level of incompetence on display, it's the fact that people like Amy New have direct lines to them and never thought to ask. Since these new rumors have kicked up, we'll say in the last few years, or like the campaign against Black Griffin started, have people tried to actually approach you for your opinion on this, or actually cared what you think? Because it appears with Claire's like, no, this isn't happening, that's not the way any of this occurred, you're wrong. And people have gone, well, of course she thinks that, she's a victim and protecting her husband, and now she's evil. Have you sort of experienced similar stuff, or have you just been sort of sidelined?
And no one's ever asked us. You know, if these people actually were concerned that we were taken advantage of as minors, they've never asked us. They claim to know us. They could have, what, do you think you have our phone number or email? Like, you know, we have peers in common, we have colleagues in common. You really that concerned about us? Like, it's insulting. We're 25-year-old adults. And frankly, they don't have any idea how young we had to become adults as well. So you want to treat us like fully, you know, professional people at the age of 13, paying taxes and like doing all this stuff, having full careers for already, 5+ years. And yet we're too immature to know our own circumstances and our own past and present. It's very, I mean, again, if there weren't all these ramifications for Gabe's career, none of us would care at all. That's why none of us have talked about it for the longest time, because it's always just garbage. You know, why? I'm not going to be offended by something someone says if I don't know them. You know, I don't value your opinion. I don't know you. So only now, I mean, this is probably honestly the last time I'm going to talk about it is with you guys, because I appreciate that You're the first people I've seen that are actually trying to get to the bottom of this. But we all just want to move on. I mean, we're digging up our lives from 10 plus years ago because these people who have never even met us claim to know what's happened in our lives, but don't take any weight in our perspective.
After all this time and effort spent silencing people who were actually involved in speaking for the potential victims of Black Griffin, Brony Fandom must have been jumping for joy when Courtney Pete was making a video, and then Lazy Bedhead, and then comes KP, and allegations against Saber. Man, April must have looked like a very good month for Fandom. But then, everything begins to fall apart. Fandom had wanted the spotlight, he wanted attention, and when he finally got it, well, that monkey paw curled in a very particular way. So let's have a look at the fallout from his side, and his interesting reactions. We've already gone over much of Fandom's reactions to KP directly, but it bears repeating that the first public statement from the Fandom account came from Sophie, not from Bonk. Bonk's concern lay primarily in the fact that he realized quite quickly that this video might be damaging to the accusations against Saberspark and DA Games. While he says that he doesn't want to shit on KP and just get people to hate on her, it wouldn't take long before the pressure really started to get to him. Now we're going to skip ahead a bit to when things get interesting around the 12th, because as things had been moving behind the scenes, Bonk wasn't idle. He'd been plotting with Emily to save the sinking ship, becoming increasingly confident that once KP was out of the way, he'd be able to emerge the hero. This would all come to a screeching halt, however, when Saberspark released his response. Saber, again, has denied these accusations, but more importantly, the video isn't addressed to Emily, focusing more towards KP and Fandom and their devious little schemes. Fandom, at this point, predictably, panics, saying the response would be coming within the next few hours. This response would not come. Most hilariously, he said that he was documenting other people's responses, which further made him a complete fucking laughingstock.
Pause. He was looking at other people reacting to how things were turning against him and said, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, and that's why he privated his account. He did not want the strong Christian hammer of Saberspark coming down on his head and smashing him royally for everyone to see. So he decided it's better to fade out than it is to get murdered in front of people on the street. That's why. And it's funny, because that's half the reason why I was confused as, oh, very interesting, very strange, when his content was disappearing. But the parts that I had, I made sure I had reference of them and I had details of them before they could do so.
This would just be the beginning of what turned into a god-tier crash-out. Fandom would blame this lack of response on an unnamed drama channel. At the time, I thought this was probably me. It might also be...
Also, thank you, Just a Girl. People acting like this Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. True. True.
Block because I do know from her DM she was watching his streams, but I am named in KP's unhinged voicemail. I'd said to KP that we had very good evidence that it was Emmy, and she should talk to me or at least somebody at this point, given what was unfolding with the situation. Either way, fucking hilarious. Now, at time of recording, the Brony Fandom account is locked, which makes me very grateful for channels like Internet Versus, because this lack of a further statement from Emmy seems to have seriously messed with Fandom's plans. He'd begin wildly lashing out at everyone from KP to Lazy Bedhead, saying he didn't want to hand over power to people like Opblock. When this didn't work, he basically concedes defeat and moves to a Hail Mary play. Now, one thing you should know about Bonk is at the slightest pressure, this guy will say that he's going to end himself. So against the current insane tirade against him, this ramped up significantly, as he posted a link to a Twitch stream in which he's walking in the rain. Now, I want to be a
If anybody has issues with suicide or the like, turn the stream off now.
Good. We're good? Okay, we good.
Touch sensitive here. Not in deference to Fandom, but this is a topic that touches a lot of people's lives, unfortunately, myself included. For that reason, I take stuff like this pretty seriously, and I get really angry when I think people are baiting this shit for sympathy. Rather, I'd like to focus on the actions of others because despite the shit that Bonk has pulled, there was almost universal concern for his well-being. Multiple people would phone wellness checks, giving out landmarks and identifying information to try and help the police track this guy down and stop him harming himself. Even Sophie would apparently do the right thing, taking access to the account away from Bonk and locking it. And this wasn't just from his friends. Angry Slug and Lyo both made serious efforts to try and protect this guy. The actual...
Yet again, another opportunity where somehow Law Convoy is not the most fucked up and annoying person in the situation.
Wellness check that did the trick apparently came from Baja, somebody who was friends with Bonk but had fallen out with him over his insane takes on pornography. And that's largely the last we've heard of Bonk for the moment. He's apparently in some kind of medical care, which, let's be honest, he desperately needs. But before finishing up with the freak, again, I'd like you to hear Claire's thoughts on the guy who's been harassing her for years. I think it also moves us quite nicely on to Fandom, actually.
Very interesting individual. He started off by being, and again, like, I have no problem answering people's questions if they're genuinely asking me a question. Or if they start, which he did, by saying this is a situation I'm bringing to light. Claire has been groomed by Black Griffin, also known as Gabriel Brown, and everybody should know about it. And he proceeded with this whole long thread, and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, surely people are not, you know, gonna bite on this. And then I saw that, like, enough people were that it started to kind of annoy me. And I was like, what the heck? So I was like, listen, this guy's like, clearly he's been in the My Little Pony fandom for a long time. He definitely knows who I am, and so I feel like I should, you know, kind of make communication with him, and I did. And I said, hey man, like, basically this is, you know, I appreciate the sentiment. I'm okay. What you think is happening is not happening. It didn't happen, and it certainly didn't happen with Michelle either. So could you just, you know, go ahead and you know, problem solved. You don't have to be a hero. I don't need saving, and Michelle doesn't need saving. We're good. None of this happened. I was not groomed, you know. And he just turned immediately and became extremely defensive and didn't care what I had to say after that point, because at that point I had spoken up against what he was saying, and he was not going to have that. This is not somebody who is worried for me, and once I say something on the matter, and this is why it's so annoying when people are like, this person needs to make a statement, this person needs to make a statement. I'm like, why? Because it depends who it's for. If we're talking about people who are my fans know that I'm chilling. My fans follow me on Instagram and Twitter or whatever and see that I'm very happy in my life and my relationship, and I'm fine. And he, I think, got, you know, he was observing this on his other accounts, and this, you know, by this I mean me and Gabe like dating. When we had come out and announced that we were dating, we were worried about that, because we know that there are some people in this fandom who are, you know, a little bit loony, for lack of a better terminology, and those people are, you know, will spread stuff about you. And that was something that we were like, you know, let's pick our moment basically. But eventually we were like, you know what, who cares? Like, I am very happy in this relationship, and Gabe was like, I'm very happy in this relationship. We, you know, we had kind of talked about it, and we're like, yeah, I feel like we can kind of let our followings know. And we have a shared following, but we also have a separate following. And it's kind of funny because it's like, when you announce that you're like dating someone seriously, or like getting married, like you lose a bunch of followers. And for me, I like, you know, I had a lot of people who spoke out, and I got the vibe that they were kind of sad that I was off the market. And I'm like, okay, no offense, but like, as if you had a shot. Like, that's just kind of, some of the people in the fan base are like that. But then there are other people who are super happy for us, and they were like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like, I'm a fan of both of you. That's so fun. Like, I love seeing people who are, you know, like-minded get together, and like, man, you guys are gonna be power couples. So like, that was really nice. But like, this, where Brony Fandom lies is one of those loony people. And no matter what I said, I realized talking to him directly was literally met with fire every single time. I'm like, is there a way that you, like, you know, I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know why you feel like you have to, like, I don't know what else I can say to like alleviate your concerns. And then I started realizing, oh, these aren't concerns. This is now an attack. And then I had speculated actually for a while that this could have been my own dad, because my dad has done stuff like this before. The language was very similar. I had alluded to some, you know, sassy remarks I made with Brony Fandom's this account. And I was just trying to kind of gauge the waters, and I'm like, yeah, I found out that it wasn't him, and I was like kind of relieved, but I also was kind of mad, because I was like, well, dang, now we just have like another crazy person with the same kind of mentality, and they just want Gabe deplatformed. And I actually DM'd them, and I had a whole conversation with him where I was like, all right, like, I'm gonna level with you, dude. Like, I don't know what your goal is here or your game, but I'm fine. And I don't know like why you're so angry about this still. Like, and it seems like you're more angry the fact that I've come out and I've said like, this is not true now. But the whole conversation, I mean, if you even can read it, he posted it like a while ago, but it was basically like, he said like, you shouldn't have a relationship with minors if you're an adult at all. And then I got curious and I started doing some research, and from literally like almost no effort at all of research, I was like, oh, okay, this person had like a role-playing account. They deleted a bunch of their, they deleted a bunch of stuff that they used to like communicate with me, that is like no longer on X anymore. But they used to communicate with me. So I'm like, so what is it that you feel so guilty or bad about talking to minors? Not even adding the words sexually to this or inappropriate. Literally just, you cannot talk to minors. And so it was very creepy to me, quite honestly, that he started saying stuff like this. And the more that he was saying that, then I started looking into it, and I was like, okay, the full con thing, like, I'm sorry, if you're normalizing, I don't care what it is, if you're drawing a freaking cabinet and you're sexually attracted to a cabinet and you say that the cabinet is 4 years old, that's really creepy. I don't care what that thing is. If it is underage and it is being sexualized and you're buying or commissioning that as porn, that is predator behavior. And I think that he's totally projecting, because I don't know. I know that I don't like just like throwing things around, especially because I know what it's like to have these words thrown at me and my own husband. But that's pretty pedophilic behavior, and it's normalizing, sexualizing young people and children, and it's disgusting. There's no loophole there. You don't get to defend why your thing is slightly different and not okay and not hurting people. Well, guess what, Brony Fandom? You're hurting me. How about that? You're hurting me. Now you've hurt one person. So is that going to make you stop getting commissioned freaking underage cartoon porn? Probably not, because there's going to be something else that you're going to defend about it the next time.
Three things. One, why is she not a YouTuber? Please!
She doesn't care.
Please, just make her fun to kill! And just occasionally show up and just take the equivalent of flamethrower across the screen! It don't matter anymore, because you're a woman, and they'll listen to you! Two, more than likely, the reason why Brony fandom feels this way, and is doing this about this content, and attacking people like her, or people like this in the space about this content, is that they have a guilty fucking conscience. And they have deep-set urges that they can't be able to deal with, that they can't address, deal with the problem. And they are very scared about people knowing who they are and what they're doing, and all of it coming down on their head, because they had to live through this content. And since it went the way that they didn't want, they are now finding themselves in a hospital. And three, how fucked up is that you have to think, oh shit, it's not my dad. Oh fuck, it's not my dad. I hate this topic and everybody who's guilty of things in it.
I'm sick of that's so sickening.
This story is one of the weirdest things I have ever covered. When I began, I expected it to be a fairly simple tale about some girl who had a grudge against another content creator and was prepared to go to any lengths to ruin him. I did not expect to be having conversations with the voice actresses from My Little Pony and dealing with a conspiracy to ruin their lives that seemingly has been running for years now. But as we've got through all the conspirators, I guess it's time for some final thoughts on this entire mess. Firstly, let's return to KP. During my interviews with her, I said I didn't really know where I came down on whether this was malice or stupidity, and I actually don't know really if that's changed. I think it's probably decent quantities of both. One thing I will point out is KP has been very forthcoming with information, and does seem legitimately remorseful. Whether these are genuine...
But the question is, well, he's probably about to say it too. The real question is she remorseful because the information's now out there, and for lack of a better result, she's gotten the, quote, public-facing consequences that she wanted for them, or is it because it has to come at the cost of her career and she's only sorry because she got caught red-handed doing it?
In feelings, a response to being thrown under the bus, or an attempt to avoid being sued into oblivion, I'll leave up to you. But what I've experienced with KP largely lines up with what other people have said to me about her. She is fairly lost and fairly clueless, turning up to our first conversation kind of baked. So it doesn't come as a surprise to me that when I came back to her to ask about Chris, she'd ask me this.
Are you cool with me coming to process to you, like, in general? Like, I don't know. It just, I don't want to look at anything that's gonna trigger me, and then why won't tell me anything because he's gonna trigger me.
Yeah.
Fandom has an MLPCP. That's why he's doing this. Thank you, Tusky.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, again, I want to be clear that I am making a video on you. I think there's that separation. I'm no one's therapist. For those of you looking for some repercussions to hit KP, and I don't blame any of you for that position, this kind of thing is devastating to a channel. I'm really not sure how you actually come back from something like this. And to be honest, the real damage that's been done to her is she has basically burnt all her bridges with her old remaining friends. And my final thought on this really is that the only person who can judge KP fairly is Saber Spark and how he feels about the shit she pulled. As a core point to this entire thing, if there is a lesson to be learned, it is about evidencing the claims we are making as creators. And I have actively avoided including claims I couldn't in some way substantiate either with evidence or additional testimonies. I have now heard the other side of the allegations being made by Emily, but I have largely dodged around talking about them and her for a very simple reason. It is not fair to me or to you as an audience for me to be presenting takes that will clearly have been biased by what I now know. As long as Saber is off the record, and I have been clear about this with him, I cannot use what he tells me, and to his credit, he wouldn't want me to. But one thing that was pointed out to me by Lazy Bedhead is that I clearly, from the start, had issues with these allegations, and she felt me not highlighting this previous bias made me slightly disingenuous. But my Twitter hasn't gone anywhere, and I was tweeting out about this on May the 2nd before I'd even begun looking at this in earnest. So, for the sake of transparency, let's just go over my thoughts and why I had issues with this to begin with. My primary problem with these allegations, having gone over many like them over the years, is that, to me, Emily tells on herself. My exact comments were, unless there is more, Saber is autistic and led her on, for like a year mind, talking about a relationship, which is shitty, but not cancel-worthy. Plus people are just glossing over the fact that this is at seemingly multiple meetings and convos, which adds a lot of grey to this. And when we come to the actual statement, we can find that Emmy is talking about being demisexual, multiple comments about Saber mentioning a relationship, and also talking about how she needed to get over her crush because she felt her emotions were being toyed with. To me, and this is just my opinion, this statement reads far more like somebody who was pissed off and has been pissed off for years that the guy she liked decided not to date her.
Exactly. It feels like a petty rewriting of a romance that was unrequited, that was given the possibility of a spark, and then was summarily fucking crushed. And this is her way of getting consequence back against them. Because they feel that if they can't have them, nobody can have them. And because they're friends with the person who decided they had a problem too, you attack him in the dick, and I'm attack him in the head, and we gonna meet together in the middle and fuck up his heart, and after we're done with that, get the demolition charges and the blowtorch. We're finna fuck up his storefront while we're at it. That's my problem, my takeaway for it. For all of the women involved, and all of the men involved that elevated the women's accusations, so they could do this reputational damage in the first place. Because if one fucking person told them, no, go to the police, and refused to give them the energy to do this, none of this happens and occurs, and they wouldn't have the balls to step up and do it. Metaphorical balls. No, they wouldn't have the balls to do this at all, so that they could get this outcome that they wanted. At the same time, to address what he said when he said, I don't know how a channel comes back from this, disassociate yourself from I Like Kim Possible a lot. Anybody who disassociates themselves from her and then goes and does their own work and then keeps a straight and narrow and clean nose, you'll be fine. Her, she's done. Kiss the ring. It is so. We on the internet decided.
And I say this because my experience has been that people tell on themselves, often unable to omit their actual reasons for taking a particular course of action. This is, of course, me just explaining my biases and my tweets on this particular situation. We all undeniably have these biases, whether you are on the listen and believe or victim side, or the evidence or it didn't happen side. Truthfully, most people are going to fall somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. The issue only really comes when people are trying to ruin each other's lives based on hearsay. And once again, hopefully for the final time now, I don't know the truth behind these allegations. Whether it is Saberspark or Black Griffin, nobody does, except for the people directly involved. I am also not unsympathetic if there are real victims and the well has been poisoned, because the people who are handling those claims have been brutally discredited. In fact, you'll notice that I barely talk about the DA Games accusations, because from what I've seen of it, it might have some legs, and because KP's video is so bad, that particular well has yet to actually be poisoned because most people don't even realize that that's what her video was about. So if there is something there, I hope somebody competent looks into it. If you've enjoyed this content, please hit the buttons below the video. It does help the channel and I do appreciate it. Thanks to all our current subscribers and members, particularly those at Molding Level, Shelly May, Based Hoz, Sivans, Letters of Sky, Corvus Cabal, Rotting Brain, Dr. Zeus Hippo, Stationary Name, Hates Lizzie, and Star Sprinter. But before I go, I want to leave you with one thing, which is admittedly kind of just for me, because there is an absurdly famous brony clip which has lived rent-free in my head for years.
However, as most... But... Fresh and cream. XO Crusher with a 10. Got chicken from the grill, baked beans, green beans with ham, a large bottle of water, and some weird as hell MP Java. Happy Memorial Day, everybody! Thank you. I give you one heart and one like.
Most of us are aware there's a darker side to the fandom which we know pretty well. To Mrs. Oliver and Miss Libin. Great. Alright, so I'm pretty sure you're aware of Princess Celestia being portrayed as a tyrant, an neutral, and God forbid a molester.
And the reason I have to bring this up is because the young lady on stage, sat next to Peter New, funnily enough, is Michelle. And I actually did ask her about this. A panelist gets up on stage and asks you about your opinions on Princess Celestia being depicted as a tyrant, an abuser, and a molester. Do you have any memory of this?
Zero. I'm telling you, I have zero memories from conventions, almost at all. They all blur together.
I even showed it to her, and she couldn't even identify which convention it took place at, which, if anything, kind of wraps this story up quite nicely. These events from a decade or so ago mean so much to so many people, but for those involved, this was just their job. As always, more content to come. Peace.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You've all done me a brain rot, every single one of you involved in this situation. Congratulations to the big winners. Get fucked to the big losers. And a happy get sued and lose your money in court to the people guilty of all the crimes. Big feels, big feels, big reels. Big feels, big reels. Oh my god, what a fucking roller coaster. So what have we learned, chat? We have learned that a popular woman chose to get together with a woman who has a background for being effectively a YouTube roastie, joined together to attack Saberspark. Saberspark defends himself, and behind all of these people attacking him, attacking his business, trying to attack DA Games, and failing poorly, is a never-ending webs of online politispergs, spurgs, CP spurgs, and drama spurgs, and drama lolcows that have desperately put themselves in the limelight, hoping to be the ones that would give them their energy for this fucked up hate ball with none other than fucking Canadian Goku helping them deliver this spirit ball of envy and animosity and pure haterade towards everybody in the fandom. And only through the sheer chutzpah of one internet sleuth boy and the humble help of boys like those down at the op block, somehow fucking swat that shit out of the sky and say, get that shit out of my court. Get this shit out of my court. Ooh, 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 ooh. And all of the cringe along the way only goes to show that one, some of these voice actresses are based. Fucking based. Two, the Spurgs aren't just Spurgs. They need emotional training and help. And thirdly, but not last and least, Rachel has clearly got some fucking problems that she needs to solve. She needs to go to therapy. She needs to get some dick. She needs to get a life. And maybe get a new hobby. Because she's not going to be able to be profitable on YouTube after this. It should be our goal to make sure that's the case. Again, kiss the ring. And so it is, chat. That's our responsibility as internet citizens that exist on this platform. Because we saw a woman try to do a street execution, and that's not okay. Gotta stop that shit. Please go to his channel, give him a like, and then go to the Outblock channel and give him a like and a follow if you're not already following them. Again, tell them that the Negrohood sends their regards, and that we have a hood on standby for Beckett if he wants it. And no, I think we've had enough dumb brony shit for the night, but feel free to post it inside the server, Tusky. As the time is now approaching 9:37, getting close to 10, we are going to bring the stream to a close. For any person who's liked the that has liked the commentary being given here, I'm Single Player Carl, you're the chat, and the woman who's mysteriously off to my left from the camera is Horror and Hellfire, my head mod.
Hello.
Feel free to go to her channel, It is Horror and Hellfire, right?
Yee.
Feel free to go to her channel, Horror and Hellfire, and give her a follow on her channel. And if you've liked what I've had to say, and the antics that I've done in front of this camera, feel free to give me a like and a follow. Otherwise, just like my theme music said, you hate black people. And you don't hate black people, do you? I'm joking. Anyways, good night. Bon nuit to you all. I'm gonna see you all in the morning. Same Carl time, same Carl channel, and we're gonna do it again all next week again on another Versus Chat. God forbid willing that I don't die. Goodbye, everyone. I love you all. I will be reading you in the funny papers, and I'm billing you all for my therapy. But not the people who donated.
Hey.
Ow, my ears. I know I'm gay. I'm fine with that. Anyways. Goodbye, everyone. I love you all. I'm billing you all for my therapy, except for the people who already donated. That will be your donation for the night. Anybody who wants to talk about the content, feel free to do so inside the server at your own leisure. Goodbye. Goodbye.